Welcome everybody to Committee of Council, Wednesday, May 31st. Members of committee, please ensure all cell phones and other electronic messaging devices are turned off or in inaudible mode. The order of the agenda today is Community Services section first, Corporate Services, followed by Economic Development, and last but not least, Public Works and Engineering. Approval of agenda. Any changes to the agenda as printed? Seeing none, Mayor Jeffrey, move agenda. Councillor Miles.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add an item to the agenda, and you could just title it Media.
An item related to media. A special item. A discussion item, sorry. 7.3.2 under Corporate Services. And that's all. Mayor Jeffrey, you still move the agenda as printed. Thank you. All in favor? That carries. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Consent agenda. I am going to ask for 6.2.1 to be pulled from consent because we have a delegation. Any other items to be pulled? Seeing none. All in favor of the consent agenda as printed, as amended? That carries. Thank you. Our first announcement, International Right-of-Way, Chapter 29 Employer of the Year and Presidential Appointment. The council sponsor on this is Councillor Moore. Councillor Moore, you'll speak after. Am I turning this over to Al?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm just going to say a couple of words of introduction, and then I'm going to leave the team to make a little bit of an announcement for you. But our real estate team was awarded a very prestigious award, and they're going to tell you a little bit about it. But by way of introduction, I wanted to say a few words about the team. I'd like them to stand as well so that they can all be acknowledged. And I know what you're wondering. You're all saying this can't be the team for real estate because of all the reports that they do, the millions of dollars of transactions that they do on an annual basis, all the acquisitions, disposals, easements, cash and lieu calculations, appraisals. But this is the team. They are highly efficient. We're very proud of them. And really they are the backbone of this organization. Any of these high-profile priority projects that we're doing, whether it's a road widening, whether it's a bus rapid transit route, these are the folks that go out there and negotiate all those deals that make things happen. They work behind the scenes. They're very modest. But they are the folks that really keep things going here in this organization and are really our foundation to a lot of the successes that we have. And I want to ask Mark to come up, and he's going to give you a little bit of insight into the team and the award that they just received.
Excellent. Because you're missing somebody.
Yes. He's going to tell you about it too. Yes.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of the Committee of Council. My name is Mark Norsworthy. I'm a Senior Real Estate Coordinator for the City of Brampton. Earlier this year, we nominated the City of Brampton for the award of Employer of the Year with Chapter 29 of the International Right-of-Way Association. The International Right-of-Way Association is an educational organization with 10,000 members in Canada and the U.S., with new chapters recently established in 13 additional countries, so it's growing. This award was appropriate and well-deserved based on the commitment of the city and our management team to our continuous educational excellence. Please note that the City of Brampton has had 3 Chapter 29 presidents, Don Bennett, Vicki Wong, and myself, 2 accredited course instructors, 5 course coordinators, and full membership by our staff involved in right-of-way work. This high level of involvement has made our nomination for Employer of the Year unbeatable. I wish to thank the City of Brampton and our management team for providing support to our educational excellence and the honor of this award that shines a light on the City of Brampton. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, very nice. Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, and I'm so pleased to be able to be the sponsor for this award. I think as any municipality, this award really represents everything that a municipality wants to be recognized for. The treatment of our employees, competency, building partnerships in the community, proficiency, lifelong learning, continuous improvement. I think that is something that every municipality aspires to. And I want to congratulate the team and their leader, because I think the team is really a reflection of the leadership. And so I want to recognize Al Menezes as the leader of the team and all those members who stepped up to the plate in making Brampton proud. I want to also extend a special congratulations to Vicki Wong for her appointment as president of the organization. And it's always good for a municipality when they hold that distinction and spread the word about the good things happening in their home municipality. So congratulations to everybody on behalf of council.
Thank you. Councillor Sporvier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mark, for the presentation. Congratulations. I do have a question, though. In this award, do they consider accuracy of appraisals? We know that in the last a number of years, we've been doing a lot of purchasing right-of-ways for road expansion and so on. And so I know that most of and I've been dealing with some of these residents that are not happy with the value that the city has come up with, the appraisal values, and a lot of them decide to go and challenge it for a hearing and so on, and then it ends up costing even more when you go to a hearing because of the legal costs and so on. And so how is that one of the factors that your department has earned this award, is because you've been fairly accurate in appraisals and have avoided going to hearings?
Thank you, Mr. Sporieri. This organization, like almost every professional organization, has to tackle that issue. There's two sides to the coin. There's the owner's interests and the city public interest, and often they don't mesh. And unfortunately, in every organization and every profession, there's those that will seek to perhaps try to get more than they are justified to request as compensation. This will never end. As long as we have lawyers that will support that point of view and the natural human greed to get more than they deserve, it'll always be there. I'm just being blunt.
I understand, but are we at the city doing a better job than other municipalities? Is that why we're getting this award?
Yes.
Your department?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, that's good. Congratulations. That's very good. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Were we taking a picture of the plaque?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Councillor Moore? I'll now turn the chair over to Councillor Bowman to introduce the next delegation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have the next delegation from Ella Corrett-Smith, Executive Director of TO Health, and Millicent Lavers, Corporate Communications of Medtronic, on an update on TO Health. And I'd like to bring item 8.2.3 as a report forward at this time as well. I guess we'll just leave for a minute.
Thank you. Just members of council, if you just take a quick second. I'd like to introduce Martin Bowl. He's our new Sector Manager, Health and Life Science, and I'm going to have him introduce, obviously meet him, and also he'll be introducing our delegations today. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Mayor and councillors, it's great to be here. It's my third week on the job. It's an exciting time for health and life sciences, and I look forward to working with all of you to bring jobs and investment to the city. I'd like to introduce our guest speakers and our delegation, Ella Corrett-Smith, Executive Director of Toronto Health, as well as Millicent Lavers, Senior Manager of Marketing at Medtronic. Please.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the council and Madam Mayor. Thank you for having me back here. I believe it's been nearly 2 years since last we spoke, and we are delighted to have Brampton as a partner to TO Health. You might remember TO Health was founded by the Board of Trade to raise the profile of the Toronto region's health sciences cluster as a place to invest. Our mission is to make the Toronto region's health sciences cluster a top 5 global cluster in the next 10 years. And we're going to do that by getting more risk capital deployed in this ecosystem, by getting more corporations to come in and invest here in the Toronto region, and getting more entrepreneurs and C-level talent, people who've been there, done that, built companies, to come here, stay here, and grow their companies here in the region. We are delighted to have Brampton as one of our partners because for us, Brampton represents what's really amazing about the Toronto region. We're the only growing North American metro region with all the assets required to be a top global cluster. Boston has been growing, it's known to be a global cluster, but it's been growing at about 10% a year. Toronto region, 43% a year. 120,000 new people a year coming to the Toronto region. And this is a place where they want to live. This is a very, practically speaking, and from a business perspective, a place of opportunity. And I think we're starting with our mission to raise the profile of what we do and make sure that globally we are known as a place to come and do business in health. Some of the things we've done in the last year and a half or so since we've spoken, we have built Toronto Health Innovation Week as a global conference to attract people to come to the Toronto region. April 3rd to 7th was the first Toronto Health Innovation Week. It was a second summit that TO Health has run, but during this week, this year, we had 26 different events occurring throughout the Toronto region. Brampton was one of the participants at MEDIC, which is the medical device conference, and Millicent and the Medtronic team will represent a large portion or one of the main companies based here in Brampton in that sector. It's a growing sector and one that's very, very important. We look to build Toronto Health Innovation Week into an annual event, and that's something we plan to do in 2018. Another major undertaking is delegations from Toronto to BIO. It's an international biotechnology convention that happens every year. 25,000 people, cities, countries, municipalities from across the world represented. And I'm delighted that this year Brampton will be joining us. And Madam Mayor, thank you very much for that. We really look forward to supporting Brampton's mission to become a health sciences cluster. And in fact, participating in events like this and coming out and joining and being part of things like Toronto Health Innovation Week and BIO and others is going to allow us to do that. It's going to allow us together to raise the profile of the entire region and make sure that globally we're recognized as a health sciences cluster. I appreciate your support. I believe it's an important partnership, and I look forward to continuing this partnership going forward. Without further ado, I'd like to pass this over to Millicent and hear from her about Medtronic's journey.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm speaking as a member of the Toronto Health, TO Health Marketing Group, and also on behalf of Medtronic, which has its Canadian headquarters in Brampton. We employ over 1,500 people across Canada, including 200 Bramptonians. To highlight the importance of the work done by TO Health, I'd like to start with a little story. So in 1949, two Canadians, Bigelow and Callahan, discovered that electrical stimulation could start a heart. The National Research Council then commissioned John Hopps to create the first pacemaker. How cool is that, that Canadians in our backyard created the first pacemaker? These three men were later called the Toronto Group, and they've gone down in history for their contributions to the pacemaker. It was Medtronic's founder, Earl Bakken, an American, who, after developing the first wearable battery-powered cardiac pacemaker in 1957, went on to found one of the largest medical device companies in the world, with 88,000 employees, 7,500 scientists, and 53,000 patents. More importantly, 70 million people last year benefited from a Medtronic technology. So Medtronic's operational headquarters is in Minneapolis, but not downtown Minneapolis, the outskirts. So if it had been Toronto, it would have been Brampton. There are 3 giant campuses and thousands of people who work there. Minnesota's venture capital-backed medical technology economy is ranked second only to San Francisco in the US. I share this story because it highlights how amazing Canadians are at research and the opportunity for improvement we have when it comes to commercialization, especially when it comes to reaping the benefits of a robust life sciences hub in terms of jobs, investment, community involvement, and research and development. Imagine if the Toronto Group had commercialized pacemakers in Toronto. Their head office would be in Brampton. Imagine if we could learn from other successful regional life sciences hubs. The good news is, we are. TO Health has done a tremendous amount of work connecting with relevant stakeholders, including companies like Medtronic, to understand what makes a regional life sciences hub successful, and has already started implementing some of those recommendations. And Ella spoke to some of them. That's why Medtronic is a proud founding partner of TO Health, and Neil Fraser is on the board. We support TO Health in an effort to have a globally competitive regional hub for health innovation. It's an important partner to Medtronic for several reasons. TO Health is making inroads in helping the GTA, including Brampton, become a globally competitive region. And just to highlight an example of this, our global CEO and all of his executives came to Canada. And they were probably thinking, Canada, 2% of a global market, maybe we could close it down, who knows? Instead, what they saw was, holy crow, the innovation that we have here, the research, the brain power, and the potential. They were blown away, and they'll probably be back very soon. It aligns the interests and assets of various stakeholders across a diverse sector. So life sciences is huge. It's not just medical devices or pharma. There's so much more to it. And somebody needs to bring that all together, and it's TO Health. TO Health provides a single voice for the GTA life sciences industry with various levels of government, such as this one. It provides a leadership role for SMEs to connect with M&Es, which is extremely valuable in order to create a dynamic ecosystem. Medtronic has several engagements with Canadian businesses. It bought one in Montreal, and when it bought it in 2018, there were 200 employees. Now there are 600. And they're still there because of the role government has played to keep them there. And we also have work that we're doing with some GTA businesses as well. But you need that connection between the M&E and the SME. TO Health drives important events that gain the attention of globally minded companies, such as Health Innovation Week, which was unbelievable. And I'm not just saying that because I was on the marketing group. I was blown away by the talent. The people that I met at the event, Canadians who are starting companies, they just need them to be commercialized and maybe even bought by our governments in Canada. That's a whole other speech. And TO Health participates in other key events that we are also proud to be a part of, including the upcoming Bio conference in San Diego, where Medtronic will also have a delegation. So before I leave you, I owe the mayor a little something, if she doesn't already have it. I know she has the pill cam, but just to show you where innovation has come, this is the modern day pacemaker. It is the size of a vitamin pill. It would not light a light bulb for 3 minutes, but it can pace your heart for 10 years. This is just an example of the type of innovations that have come out of the Toronto group and that we could stimulate if we invest in a robust life sciences sector. Thank you. I don't know how I give this to you.
Thank you, Millicent. So that's why I said so few things and let Millicent say the rest, because this is an example of the kinds of work that's being done here and the kinds of things that we will together then continue to build. So thank you very much for your support. I don't know if there's questions or what.
Are there any questions, comments, feedback?
Yes. Okay.
I think it's an exciting time, and as I say, I look forward to working with many collaborative groups and again bring jobs and investment to the city.
Perfect. We do have some comments for you. Mayor Jeffrey?
Great.
So I can't resist. Thank you, Chair. When I traveled, I think it was to Israel, I learned about Medtronic then, and I think it's one of the worst kept secrets. What we do in Brampton is extraordinary, and I didn't know what we did until I left Brampton. So we need to do better bragging, and I think we've got somebody who's a great cheerleader. But I think the technology that we developed here with Medtronic is something we should be extremely proud of. And almost everybody has seen the pill cams that I brought back, because they are a great prop to show the kinds of innovation. And medical devices are a huge part of that success story for us as a city, and that research and development and keeping our residents healthier longer. So thank you for bringing another prop. I'll have more to talk about. And I certainly appreciate the work that TO Health is doing to bring us all into the same room to talk about health and life sciences and where we want to be as a region and how we want to specialize. So thank you for being here today, and I look forward to the work we're going to do in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair Palashi.
Thank you, Chair Bowman. This is unbelievable. This is like fantastic. I have an assistant that has one of these that is in his wherever they put them, and he's able to look at his phone and get all the readings off of his phone, which is like really neat. And for him, he's a tech guy and he loves that kind of stuff. So I think this is fantastic, and knowing that you're Canadian and not only Canadian but born in Brampton here is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Chair Palashi. Councillor Sprovieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ladies, for the presentation. Have you ever done any research on how many people are actually living longer because of the medical developments that have been done over the years? Has that ever been calculated?
Absolutely. So the average age, life expectancy for a Canadian, I believe, is 85 for a female, 83 for a male, something like this. And I don't want to lie because I don't quite remember, but that is that's about 10 years improvement in the last 50 or something. It's something to that extent. I'd love to dig out that graph, but absolutely. I mean, we have significantly and clearly increased the life expectancy of our populations. Now, how much of that was done because of things that happened in Canada versus globally? That's a better question. But certainly, there's things like embryonic stem cells that were discovered in Canada. The pacemaker we just heard about. I'm sure there's multiple other things that are just absolutely critical within the healthcare system that have been developed right here. And we certainly need to talk more about that than we probably do.
Thank you. And Would you know if Medtronics is actually working on extending the life even longer? Is that one of their goals of today's challenges? So people like me can be around a little longer?
It's actually in our mission statement, which hasn't changed for 60 years, to
Great.
extend life, alleviate pain, and restore health.
Keep on working then. keep
And can I just add that living longer isn't the only goal. Living well is
Living well,
also
yeah, of
another
course.
goal.
Yeah, doing
And
healthy.
as an example, there's a stent to remove a clot from the brain for a stroke for those who wouldn't respond well to the drug. And the alternative is possibly still life, but paralyzed. So it's night and day. There's some beautiful videos on our YouTube if you'd like to check them out. Just Canadians who are affected by these technologies. So living longer isn't the only goal.
Yeah,
It's
it's
living
living
maybe
healthy, yeah.
pain-free.
Of course.
And living well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Provieri. Excellent presentation, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
I guess with technology like that, I guess John's hinting at either living to see the next centennial of Canada or the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. One of the two.
We have no control over that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I love to imagine, as you mentioned, and the economic benefits and the ecosystems derived within the small and medium enterprise here in Brampton is huge. The opportunities are huge, and I'm really looking forward to Medtronic's massive expansion here in Brampton. Yeah, if you can work on that
We
for
can
us.
work on that.
So thank you very much. Can I have a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Moore, all in favor? Okay, and with that is report 8.2.3-1. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, can I have a motion to receive the report, approve the report and the recommendations? Councillor Willens, all in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. And with that, I will turn over the chair to Councillor Willens. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Bowman. Today we have with us David Lang from the Chair of Bike Brampton to talk about an upcoming event. Welcome, David.
Good morning, Chair Willens, Madam Mayor, members of committee, members of staff, and the public. My name is David Lang. I'm the chair of Bike Brampton, an advocacy organization for active transportation in the City of Brampton, Region of Peel. Like our previous presentation, we also have a mission to extend life and the quality of life, and that's through riding and physical activity. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about a very important event that we have coming up. The primary reason for my delegation is to remind committee that June is Bike Month, and June 24th is Bike the Creek, one of the highlights of the month that this year more than ever is jam-packed with events around cycling. And where's my thing here? Okay. Okay, never mind, I'll do this. Nope. Sorry about that. I also want to congratulate the City of Brampton for recently being awarded bronze status as a bicycle-friendly community. This award was given to Brampton in recognition of the progress the city has made across a number of fronts in its support for cycling over the past 4 years. Brampton has become the envy of many communities across the GTA for the number and sophistication of its cycling encouragement events like Bike the Creek, Bike Fest, Cycle Fest, and community rides, as well as Bike to Work Day, which just happened this past Monday. Now in its 4th year, Bike the Creek has become the city's signature cycling event, growing more popular every year. And you know you've arrived when the event actually has its own safety plan, which we have achieved this year, and when you have your own official sign placement plan, thanks to members of staff that have really participated very, very well to help us get there. Bike the Creek takes a year in the planning, and it couldn't be done without the support and dedicated work of event partners, including many staff members as mentioned. We have also been fortunate to enjoy support from a growing list of sponsors which have been generous with both their financial and in-kind donations. This year's event promises to be the best yet. With more rides and more activities than ever, we have 5 routes to choose from, including a 58-kilometer Canada 150 ride. We also have a bicycle rodeo, which we have had in previous years, very well participated by the younger members of the cycling community. We have many historical sites, and I should point out that there are a lot of sites in Brampton that were actually built in the 1860s, 1867 area or time frame, so it fits in extremely well with the Canada 150 theme. We have a continued focus on the importance of our natural heritage, which is significant because of our environmental sustainability and the Sustainable Neighborhood Action projects, which are being highlighted this year. The 2 that are in Brampton are both being highlighted. No community can be a bicycle-friendly community without good police support. And we are very fortunate in that regard in having good support from our friends in the police. And no community can maintain its bicycle-friendly community status without support from community leaders such as yourselves. And as you can see, we are very blessed with support from all levels of government. And that has contributed significant amounts of dollars to our ability to expand the trails network inside of the city of Brampton and the town of Caledon. And I should point out that being recognized as a bicycle-friendly community has significant spin-off benefits, not only to our health and well-being, but also to our financial and economic well-being as well. And so this is just an example of some people that we met along the trail during one of our planning rides, folks coming from as far away as Thunder Bay. But I should also point out that we're beginning to get quite a Twitter following from as far away as Europe. We even have some people from Australia and New Zealand. So I would ask Council to please do what you can to continue to support the momentum that we've managed to build over the last 4 years, to maintain. Now we've got our bicycle-friendly community status. The challenge is to continue that, to grow it, to continue to maintain it. And as our tagline says, biking in Brampton builds our community, and I believe that that's very, very true. So thank you very much for your time. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I think Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to recognize Dave and your wife, Dale, for the way you have taken on this challenge, and your enthusiasm is infectious. And I do believe that it's because of your efforts that Brampton has earned that designation, because you have continued to poke and prod at the city to ensure that we're doing all of the things that we need to be doing in order to make this a bicycle-friendly city. So I think it's also a demonstration of how important it is that the community does get involved in community initiatives, because individuals like you and your wife, Dale, you just bring so much to this community, and to see the way this Bike the Creek has grown. I remember attending the first one with my granddaughter, and she went through the bicycle rodeo, and at that time was using training wheels. But it really is phenomenal to see the growth in this particular area. And I also want to recognize the work that you've done with our environmental group. I attended the workshop that you had, and I was just blown away and so impressed by the work that we are doing in that area as well. And I do credit a lot to you and your wife, because you're our champions and our leaders on this, and you're just an absolute pleasure to work with. So thank you.
Thank you. an awful lot of people besides myself doing the heavy lifting, though, so but I appreciate the feedback.
But you always have to have a champion, and you are it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mills. Councillor Spilberry.
Chairman, and thank you, Dave, for the presentation. It's very interesting to hear that people are actually coming from out of town and out of the country to participate. And what's attracting them?
Well, I'm sorry?
What's attracting people from out of town and out of the country to come here and ride this trail?
Well, I don't know exactly. I think it's different things for different people. But one of the things that Brampton has is a wonderful trails network, which is surprisingly, we haven't really celebrated that enough. We also are very nicely placed, equidistant between Toronto as a large metropolitan center with lots of cycling attractions, and Caledon, which is a big draw for cycling. And I think that with the expansion of the Etobicoke Creek Trail, which we're seeing more expansion happening, we had trail extensions last year. We're going to have more this year. We're pushing for even more to take place in 2018, and my vision is to have a complete trails connection that will connect the Greenbelt Trail to the waterfront. And at that point, we really have a big draw to be able to bring people that want to travel maybe 2-3 days by bicycle and do the bicycle tourism kind of thing. And I think that would have big economic development support, opportunity for the city of Brampton, bed and breakfast, hotel accommodations, and attractions like PAMA, which are really doing a good job in terms of positioning themselves as a cycle-friendly attraction.
Oh, good, thanks. And how long is the trail this year that you'll be riding?
So there are 5 different rides. The shortest one is 11 kilometers, the family ride. The longest ride is 58 kilometers, and I believe we have a 40 kilometer and a 30 kilometer that are in between.
Very interesting. And a final question. How do you mix novice riders with the experienced riders? You know what I mean? When you get to 1,000 people riding, I saw the Tour de France where somebody made a mistake and then a bunch of cyclists went tumbling.
Yeah. Well,
does that happen sometimes?
No. So first of all, it's not a race. It is anything but a race. It is the idea of the event is for people to be able to explore the city, to explore the natural and cultural heritage elements of the city at a leisurely pace. So we design it so that you can cover the territory in the time allotted. Then as part of our safety plan, we let the riders off in small groups. So they're basically sent off at about a dozen a time. And so they quickly spread out along the trail, and we haven't had any collisions so far, touch wood.
Great, good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Oh, come back up. And thank you so much for coming and doing the presentation. I think I've attended every year now. I may have missed one, but I have to say on the safety aspect, your speech that you give every year prior to starting the event is not only very motivating to maintain safety within the ride. It's inspiring to make sure that everybody is safe and kept safe, and I don't think we've had any problems, and I don't see us ever having any problems. But thank you again for coming here, and thank you for having in one of the best boards in Brampton. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Gus. Bless you. I was waiting for that. Don't go away, David, yet. Thank you, David, for coming. It's great. You do good work on our Environmental Advisory Committee as well, as Councillor Miles pointed out. You will see us there, Councillor Pleshy and I. I think Councillor Bowman is intending on coming, I hope. And I'm riding a bike, and I will wear my helmet this time.
Okay, that's terrific. Thanks so much. Thanks for all your support. I really appreciate it. How may I sit down?
Thank you, Councillor Willens. Our next delegation is Siggy, President, Brampton Minor Excelsior Lacrosse Club, Brampton Major Excelsior Lacrosse Club 2017 Community Grant Request. Welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chair, members of the Committee of Council, Madam Mayor, and city staff. My name is Iggy Musial. I'm the president of the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. With me is Dan Boyer, one of our directors. I would first like to thank the city for their support in Brampton hosting the Minnow Cup in August and installing the carpet at Memorial Arena. It looks amazing. The Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club is a non-profit organization, sports group providing activities that raise awareness, build pride, and foster a positive image for the city of Brampton. The BELC also preserves and protects the heritage and tradition of lacrosse in Brampton. We've been the oldest running sports community since 1872, and lacrosse is Canada's national summer sport. This year, the CLA is celebrating its 150th anniversary, and our BMLA is celebrating, the Brampton Minor Lacrosse is celebrating its 75th anniversary. Lacrosse is a distinct, lively activity that unites people and local businesses to instill civic pride and help build a strong community. We support diversity and enable wellness through health and rec programs. Lacrosse in Brampton has provided important venues for some exciting sports entertainment by providing an opportunity for players, parents, and corporate sponsors to build a healthy and caring community. Brampton has hosted both the Minto and Men Cups. And our organization has 60 individuals and 2 teams inducted into the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame, 32 inducted in the Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame, and 49 and 1 team into the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, and we have 140 life members. We're fortunate to have good volunteers, about 80 to date, who contribute many man-hours per year. Each volunteer is a valuable asset to our organization, and without the participation, we would not be able to function. Despite the fact that our continuous support for local sponsors, we struggle to meet our financial commitment to provide lacrosse in Brampton. In the past, historically, Brampton received a grant from the city. We would consider it a heritage grant, and we received an annual grant of $30,000. This year, we put in a grant application, and we're not considered because you can't fit a square hole in a round peg. My ask this year for the majors is an in-kind grant for floor time and a cash grant of $10,000 to purchase a new set of sweaters, shorts, and warm-up tees. I would hope in the future that the community grant program would consider heritage groups in their grant programs. I think that's it for me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairs. I know our policy is normally to refer this back to staff because we don't have a report in front of us, so I'd like to do that, so staff can report back.
Okay. Can I just get the, I missed the in-kind. You were looking for in-kind for?
Floor time?
For floor time?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the majors, it would be about $5,000 for in-kind.
Okay. We have a referral back to staff to bring a report back to the committee. Councillor Moore is on the board. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. As part of the reporting back, can you report any current subsidies for the group as well? So it's current subsidies plus the request for in-kind plus the $10,000.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you through the chair. Just to staff regarding the report back, if you can just provide some historical record, what's been attributed to this organization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Gibson has moved referral. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Liz Cunningham, Executive Director, Making Our Seniors Matter, request for relief of rental fees for our seniors event at the Chinguacousy Curling Center. Liz, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Take my glasses off because I'm almost a senior and I can't read with them. Your Worship, members of council and staff and the public here this morning, good morning to you all on a beautiful day. Thank you for allowing us to come and make this request. My name is Liz Cunningham and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of Making Our Seniors Matter. Hopefully you have a copy of our flyer so you know a little bit about why we're here. We are requesting some relief from the rental cost of Chinguacousy Curling Center for our exhibition, Lifestyle Options for Seniors and Boomers, on September 9th of this year. Making Our Seniors Matter is a nonprofit organization based here in Brampton. The original organization started about 3 years ago. We will be host to approximately 70 exhibitors in the curling arena. English is my first language, but it's not working. 10 non-paying community groups in the main floor lounge, and 5 professional speakers in the upstairs lounge, so we will be using the entire facility. Our goal is to provide as many lifestyle options, businesses and services as we can for the topics of aging in place and housing in our community. Aging in place requires that we know what that means for people. What does it look like financially, socially, and physically, with caregivers, supports, and services to provide a safe, happy, and connected life? Lifestyle options includes downsizing, moving to condos, apartments, shared accommodations, intergenerational homes, and inventive new ideas. With the help from a couple of city departments, we hope to be able to provide information on some of the financial benefits from the City of Brampton that residents can apply for. Sometimes these are part of the hidden gems that are in our community that not everybody knows about, so we'd like to promote those. The Region of Peel has agreed to provide information on low-income housing, waiting lists, and the process of application. CMHC will be speaking about their priorities, which in happenstance in a good way at this time are housing options and aging in place. We chose Chinguacousy Curling Center because of its age-friendly layout. It has a flat entry, wide hallways, open space, an elevator, multiple handicap parking spots, and a large parking lot with easy access to the front doors. It's located on Bramley Road. It has easy access by bus and by car and is centrally located. Our ever-growing senior demographic and upcoming boomers want current information from trusted and reliable professionals. And it's easier for them to come to one place than it is to go to 70 different places to gather that information. As a full-day event with seating and refreshments and helpful volunteers, our guests will be able to take their time, talk to exhibitors, and get the information they want and need. Normally, Flower City Senior Center would be hosting a 55-plus info fair in September, but have chosen to work cooperatively with us at Making Our Seniors Matter to provide an exciting, interesting, and meaningful day to our seniors and their families. I say families because they also need the information in case they find themselves in the position of decision maker. This day also provides an opportunity for family discussion about the thoughts and wishes of their parents or grandparents, as they may have to have some of those difficult conversations in the future. I'd look, not on my notes, but I'd like to say that 2 of your delegations today promote healthy aging, active living, cycling, and amazing electronics that help us live longer. And the living longer, living well, and free from pain is an important, huge factor in the life of a senior in our community. And some of the presentations and people that are coming are hopefully bringing that kind of information to our families as well. Making Our Seniors Matter did make a grant request for funding from the city early this year, but unfortunately was not approved. A conversation did suggest that we did not fit into the current criteria. By the time we've received an answer on that request, we were well into our planning work. It takes quite a while to come up with these things, as you well know. And we chose to go ahead with the event regardless. We still feel it's a very important opportunity to engage the community, our city, our seniors and their families, and businesses and service organizations, not-for-profits and businesses, all together under the same roof for the same reason. We've tried to cut back wherever we can on our budget, but we feel strongly that we are bringing a worthy event to our area, and we want to make it a success for everyone. So we need excellent exhibitors, and we're hoping for between 1,500 and 2,000 visitors. A large portion of our costs will be used to focus on attracting the full attendance and to provide value to the event exhibitors. We hope you'll consider our request for help today, since it would certainly be of assistance to us to be successful in our senior and boomer community. We have spoken with several councillors, and I thank them all for their support, their time, and their input, and their encouragement to go ahead. During a meeting with Councillors Miles and Fortini, Councillor Fortini suggested we bring this delegation to you. So there we go. It is a good thing for the City of Brampton, and we hope you are able to support us. We appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Liz. We do have a couple questions. Councillor Miles.
Thank you very much. Like the past delegation, I would refer this back to staff, but before I do, I did have a couple of comments that I would like to make. And again, this is a scenario where the grant request doesn't fit into the criteria. But we have had conversations around this table several times, as you'll recall, about the fact that if there is the opportunity for a community group or a community organization to host an event in lieu of the municipality having to host the event, that we need to look at those kinds of partnerships for the future, because quite frankly it's a lot more expensive for us as a municipality or a city to do it with all paid staff rather than a not-for-profit organization that's working on volunteerism. So as Liz has pointed out, this particular Seniors Expo, not this one, but a Seniors Expo was an event that was held annually by the municipality. So it was completely, all of the cost, the room, everything was incurred by the municipality. And the reason why it was done on an ongoing basis is for the very reasons that Liz has pointed out to everybody. It's an opportunity and an avenue to provide really worthwhile information to our growing seniors population. So I think we're really lucky to have Liz and her, Making Seniors Matter organization take this on, because what she's really done is she's grown the event and is taking it to a venue which is, I think, readily accessible to seniors all around the municipality. And if you look at the list in front of you, she does have a host of partners. So this isn't just this organization working on their own. The City of Brampton is working in partnership with them, as well as the region of Peel. They've got private sector organizations as well as Central Mortgage and Housing. And the kind of information that they are going to be sharing with our seniors community it's really important information and essential. It's something that we should be doing on an ongoing basis, both at the City of Brampton and the region of Peel, I think in partnership to ensure our seniors do have the information that they need. So all of this just to say, this is a really worthwhile event for the municipality to invest in partnership with this organization and other organizations. And if the cost to the municipality is in this partnership is to provide a space, I think it's well worth that kind of investment. So having said that, I will leave it at that. I know we do have to ask for a report back, but I think sometimes we need to step back and actually look at some of these situations and the benefit to the community, because if they weren't doing it, we would need to be doing it, and it's far more cost effective, and I think it's a far better way to be working with this kind of an organization on an event like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Moore, speaking to the referral.
Thank you. I'm going to support the referral back for a report. I've had the opportunity to meet with both of you and want to thank you very much for, I think, the effort and the energy that you put into what is, as Councillor Miles indicates, a really worthwhile endeavor for those looking for seniors programming and living options, as well as those who are providing the care. You are, can I ask a specific question? In terms of the region of Peel, you have them as a special thank you. What has been their role in this?
Their role has been a meeting, actually two, and some commentary on what kinds of information they might be able to bring to the event as well in regard to housing, and also what else the region of Peel might offer that is different, that complements the city.
They're not a funding partner in this. Because, as Councillor Miles points out, you don't meet the current criteria for the city grant program. But we did receive from our staff a briefing note recently with a commitment that they would be reviewing what really is a grant program that's in its infancy from our former grant program. But and I've mentioned this before, the Region of Peel did a wholesale review of their community investment grants. They're in the neighborhood of $6.5 million. But part of the exercise that they went through was to sit down with all of the funding, the funders in the Region of Peel, whether that was Trillium, United Way, other agents or other entities that provide grants, and you see CMHC and so on here, to identify who was the best funder for what. What came out of that was the role of the region being very clear in terms of capacity building and strengthening organizations, and for the United Way, for example, to fund a program. I think, looking in the rearview mirror, the city of Brampton didn't have a grant program at that time, but we really could have and should have been at the table to talk about how we might work as a partner with the Region of Peel to identify who's the best funder for the initiative that comes forward. And in this case, there is, in my mind, no question that the Region of Peel is the better and more appropriate funder for this. That's why I asked specifically what the region's role was in this. And I don't know whether you've gone online and applied. The one really good thing that the region did through that process was completely remove the politicians from the decision-making, as it becomes politicized. We all want to do good, but sometimes doing good means that we set a precedent, and others who didn't know to come to the table and plead their case don't get considered for funding. So I know that staff may or may not be able to address that as we refer it back, but staff have committed to reviewing it, and I think that it would be prudent to sit down with the other funders as we move into a more mature grant program to decide, and so that we can advise and coach and triage the ask to the more appropriate funding source. But I guess I'm coloring way outside the lines, aren't I, Chair Palishi? Thank you. I'll stop.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Madero speaking to the referral.
Thank you, through the chair. I will support the referral, but I will just say, members of council, is what I'm finding is folks who have been denied grants, by bringing them here, we're challenging the integrity of the grants program per se, because I myself have groups that Councillor Bowen and myself have met who are worthy groups, and unfortunately this just really becomes a slippery slope. And when we send staff off to prepare these reports, when they've already provided a rationale for not supporting in the first place, so then we start creating these special circumstances constantly, and then we challenge what the program that we have. So I would just ask that if we can be cognizant and apply some council discipline to ensure that, for the integrity of the grants program we're starting, staff have committed to reviewing it. Come back next year, we invite groups to, invest, to apply again, and then we go forward. But to have this situation where we're going to constantly bring groups, because now I sit here as a councillor wondering, I should be bringing groups from my area who were denied. So I have 3 or 4 groups. I have a Gujarati community event, which was denied. I have a music for children who have, don't have the economic means to apply to, or they didn't receive a grant. So, I have soccer groups, I have kabaddi groups, cricket groups. So I would ask that we apply discipline, be more cognizant about doing that, because it does become disrespectful to other groups who do not receive funding. Thank you.
Councillor Willen, speaking to the referral.
Speaking to the referral, when the report comes back, keeping in mind that Brampton has been designated an age-friendly community, and a lot of these things that are on here fall under that mandate that we, on that committee, so keep that in mind as well. And what would I know the ask is for the facility, in that report, can you have the costs of what it would be? The value of it? Okay, great, thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Gibson, speaking to the referral.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm going to support the referral, but I'm going to ask staff to consider something when they're writing the report to come back, and that is that, first of all, somebody very wise said to me when I first got on council that always support the youth and always support the seniors. Everybody else in between pays the freight. That was his thing. He's no longer with us and actually never made it to be a senior. But I thought that was very wise, and I've always kind of thought of it that way. When you're writing the report, I want you to think about, and it may have to be a separate report, is we have a seniors council, and I look at this and I don't see the seniors council on here.
Yeah.
And I know that you work with them, I know all that kind of stuff, but maybe we don't give our seniors council, which we have politicians on, the ability to help in these sort of things. And maybe we need to, as we just went through a whole process for the arts to determine what we were going to do in the scenario of arts in Brampton, maybe we should do the same with seniors, and maybe that seniors council could be the stepping stone for all the seniors to go through to get the funding for what they need to do, because this is very important in my mind. And I think it's something that we need to support, but as Councilor Madero said, it's not within the policy. We knew when we put that policy together there's probably going to have to be exceptions, but everybody thinks that they will be the exceptions. So I'd like to see staff think about that, and maybe even the council members that sit on the seniors councils think about that, where we can have a role for that seniors council to play in things sort of like this for the seniors. I just throw that out there because I just thought of it, actually, and maybe we can think some more about that. Maybe it might need to be a separate report, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. That sounds like a good idea. We have a referral on the floor. All in favor? That carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a delegation from Debbie Pendlebury, Acting Staff Sergeant, 2017, Special Olympics Ontario Provincial Summer Games Manager, Heather Ramori, Inspector Peel Regional Police, Transit Shuttle Service for 2017, Special Olympics Ontario Provincial Summer Games. At this time, I'll bring item 6.2.1 forward. Thank you, Debbie. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you all again for your time this morning. I think in front of some of you, this is my third time speaking, and Mayor Jeffrey, if we include PSB, it's number 4. So I'm getting pretty comfortable up here, and thank you for your continued support in this. I know I've also publicly thanked a couple of people on your staff, Linda Olimer, who's here from Sport Tourism, and Heather Frost from Community Grants. They're worthy of a continued recognition because every week, it seems like every day I hear from them, and their support is truly, truly valued, as is yours. So thank you to you both here today. So obviously I'm here to delegate in regards to the staff report in front of you that speaks to our request for in-kind transit shuttle service during the Special Olympics Provincial Summer Games. I think it's important just to remember that Peel Regional Police are partnering with Special Olympics Ontario to host the Summer Games, and Special Olympics Ontario is part of Special Olympics, which is a worldwide charitable organisation. The funds that we raise for the Games come from within the community through various fundraising events and mechanisms, and it's very important that we get our community on board to support this endeavour. I appreciate that the report outlines that we be authorised for the internal city rate for transit shuttle. There have been some conversations between, obviously, transit and our transportation committee in regards to the rate, the number of hours that we require buses for. But obviously I'm here today to ask if there's any exception or exemption that can be considered within the community grant program that has been approved for the Summer Games. And I'm not sure, there was something in the report I just wanted to bring to your attention. It does outline that it was the Peel Regional Police that applied for the grant. It was actually Special Olympics Ontario with Special Olympics Brampton that officially brought that grant request forward. Another thing to note for Council for consideration is it was discussed for about 206 transit hours from the City of Brampton's component. We are just finishing drilling down on competition schedules, and we're very mindful of resources that we're utilizing within the community. We've come up with some schedules that we think will allow us to slightly diminish the number of transit hours in total. We've had City of Mississauga come on offering 9 buses in kind to us, so that has helped immensely. So I think worst case scenario is what's outlined in the report here in regards to transit hours and costing. We are working very hard to reduce that, again, just being cognizant of the resources that we would be using. Councillor Gibson, you just mentioned in the previous delegation that we have to be very mindful of our youth and senior, and I would just like to put it out there that, obviously Special Olympics is for people with intellectual disabilities, and I'd like to include that in those groups, that these are people that we need to look after. So anything you can do in that regard would be truly appreciated. The other thing obviously of concern to me as I speak to you today is obviously our timelines. We're about 6 weeks out from the Games. Having secured now a major component of transportation, we're close to finalizing everything. So I'm also looking for some guidance from yourselves. If the exception to the community grant policy can be tabled, I'm also interested to know is what the timelines would be in regards to those discussions. So subject to any questions, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. I have nobody on the board as of right now. We have been in contact. We listened to you at the Region Appeal. So I do have some questions of staff and yourself. I'll start off with you, Debbie. The $52,000 in kind, there may be, you had said that there might be an opportunity. I know that we don't allow it, but to use some of those funds towards the buses. And are you utilizing the full amount of the $52,000?
We're not. We have about $6,500 that has been granted for our facility rental fees, and just under $2,000 for signage. Those are the sort of two hard resources that we've utilized under the grant program, but right now that leaves about $40,000, a little over $40,000 in the in-kind service or the grant program that's at this point is unutilized.
Okay, and do you foresee that you might need to utilize?
I'm working hard with Heather to try and spend it. But at this point, given that it's an in-kind, it is challenging to utilize that amount, and we don't, with this timeline to the Games now, we don't foresee any major expenses coming in where we could use that in-kind amount.
Okay, so then I'm going to, before I put my request through and by way of a motion, I'll ask staff that compared to Mississauga, we heard it at the region. I think they were saying at the region there was 11 buses that were going to be provided, and now it's whittled down to 9 buses, as you say.
Since they came on board after the Region of Peel presentation, they're actually changing the buses we're getting. I believe we're getting the articulating buses, which are bigger and they seat more people.
Okay.
So they're looking at probably 9 buses now as opposed to the 11, which will probably, hopefully in their favor, affect the price point of the in-kind service.
Okay, and then how much do they have a grant program in Mississauga?
Not that Special Olympics was eligible for, no.
Okay, have they provided anything else to you in kind?
Right now, we put a request back into them for the facility rental fees. Right now, with the City of Mississauga, we are paying for the 2 Mississauga locations. Again, since the Region of Peel presentation, the dialogue's opened up again in regards to whether they could waive the facility rental fees, and I don't have a final decision on that.
Okay, and I had heard that there was an appetite from Regional Council, from the councillors in Mississauga. To staff, and I guess it'd be a collaborative approach here, that can we look at something to the effect of reducing the in-kind amount to offset some of the dollar figures for the buses?
Through to you, Chair. Transit staff has worked closely with our colleagues at Peel Regional Police, and with Staff Sergeant Pendlebury, who's been the leader on this file. So we've reduced as much as we can in terms of what the ask was. And when we looked at the current grant program, it doesn't meet the policy of the grant program, where the transportation is not part of the program itself. In talking to our colleagues in Mississauga, Council has directed staff to provide the in-kind service for the transportation requirement, but again, they do not have a grant program as we have with the 52,000 in kind. And that's why the staff recommendation to be consistently applied throughout all our requests, much like the Canada Games 55 last year, we reduced it to the internal $115 per hour for this program. And we're working closely with the Regional Police to support other initiatives that we can within our current staffing complement.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and it's a good report that you guys have put together. Debbie, I'm going to ask you, can I, so it's going to cost the city, it's the value of $36,066. Can I remove that from your in-kind and put it to offset the buses? You okay with that?
I would love you to. Yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
So I'm going to move, I don't have anything in writing. Peter, can you formalize anything that I remove $36,066 from the in-kind grants and move that over to the buses, provide the buses for, so it's kind of like a wash, not really, but kind of like a wash.
Just through the chair, just to clarify, that is out of policy, just so, as you all know, that does set a precedent for everything else we deal with. So just let you know.
It does and it doesn't. This is, it's, I think from my point of view, it's the Special Olympics. It's a very special time. It's Peel Regional Police that are really taking the initiative here and doing some great work. And I think an event like this it speaks volumes. So I understand that it's not within the policy, but I look for councillors to open up your heart on this one item and to see if we can. We're giving the money. It's in kind and it's just robbing Paul to pay Peter kind of thing. But that's what I'm asking for council to support. Did you capture the wording that I wanted?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to be helpful, if you're speaking to trying to reallocate uncommitted in kind to the transit, then a possible motion could be, whereas the Special Olympic Summer Games is anticipated to be unable to utilize approximately $40,000 of in kind from the previous grant allocation by the City of Brampton, whereas this is an exceptional circumstance acknowledging it is outside of council-approved grant policy, that the City of Brampton commit to the provision of the transit shuttle services to an approximate value of up to $40,000. So it's a transfer.
Okay. So just through the chair, if I could, so they did apply for initial grant and they had a budget for that grant. So does that mean that the other money that we do will be charging them for it, because if they do take it outside of that? Because they came in for a specific grant, for specific items. So just for clarification, because now we may not have money for that. If they're looking to spend that money will go over the 52,000. So we need clarification on.
So I'm asking for $36,066 to remove from the $52,000 of in-kind to be put towards the bus shuttle service that is required, that it's also been reduced the amount of hours because of Mississauga's ability to increase the size of their buses.
But just to clarify, they did come in with a specific ask. So all of that, whatever that ask is, advertising, everything else, is that set aside now? Is that part of it? If it goes over the 52,000, because potentially that could happen. They're looking to spend that 52,000 right now, working with our staff on that. So you've now taken a new grant program or set up a new funding within the grant. It's because they came in for a specific ask, and that's why we approved it. So I'm not sure what happens to that now.
I'm asking you to utilize that funding for the buses.
I understand, but if there is more money that they're spending that overtakes the 52,000, what is staff supposed to do?
Well, there's a buffer, so don't overspend it.
Well, I'm just asking, they came in for
That's why
specific...
I'm asking for the 36,000 and not the 40 that they might not be able to utilize.
Okay, I'm just saying that they came in for a specific grant. They had a budget of 52,000.
Well, we've opened up the board here, so Councillor Gibson?
Thank you. This seems like it's getting complicated again, so I'm going to ask for this referred back to staff. I realize that there's some time constraints in this. We all want to be supportive, but at the same time, we don't want to set some precedents where the floodgates open. So we want to help. I'd like to know when staff report back what Mississauga is doing, because really, to me, this is a region appeal thing, and maybe the funding for some of this should have come from the region appeal, rather than Mississauga and Brampton battling back and forth of how much they can do and what they can do within their policies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to ask staff to look at that, see what Mississauga is doing, and report back. We want to be, I think we all want, I'm sure we all want to be supportive. But I hope you understand that we just can't open the floodgates. We just gave a grant, and this would be completely different than what we just did recently. So it's not just a matter of saying, well, it's Peel Regional Police, we have to support them. You know, we have to support everybody we can, just to a certain extent. So thank you. I'll ask referral.
Okay. Councillor Miles, speaking to the referral.
Yeah, I just think that if we are going to refer it back, then there should be a revised budget be presented to staff from the police, so that the questions and concerns that have been raised by Mr. Darling are addressed in the budget.
Okay. Harry, can you tackle timelines too?
Yeah, no, because of the importance of this, we're going to work on this for next week, come back to council next week, and because it affects a couple departments, so we'll make sure we do this quickly.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Committee, there's a referral on the floor. All in favor? That carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move a motion to receive all delegations that we've kind of not received as of yet. Okay, then we'll receive this delegation. Councillor Willens, thank you. All in favor? That carries. The next item is item 6.2.2, proposed. Councillor Miles, can you take yourself off the board for me? Proposed Fire Station 217 Goreway Drive, Ward 10. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Chair Kalashi. I would like to also refer this one back to staff. I think we need some more information on this. It talks about costs, it talks about different options, but I don't see anything concrete here, so I would like to refer it back to staff for some more concrete information that we can wrap our heads around and make a firm decision on.
Okay, we'll take that referral. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'll also ask that Al and the Chief meet with Councillor Sprovieri, Councillor Dillon, myself, and Councillor Bowman before this does come back to committee. Councillor Sprovieri, speaking to the referral.
Yes, sir.
Stay on the line.
I certainly support the referral.
Okay.
And perhaps staff can, when we meet, can have some answers ready on the fact that this is parkland. It was dedicated for parkland use through the development process for that community, and that council decide to convert its use to a fire hall. We want to see also the implications about how do we make up for that loss in that neighborhood, because that was planned. It was planned to serve that neighborhood for some community service, community use. So that staff report on the implications of converting parkland that was dedicated for parkland use to a different use. So we need to know.
Councillor Sprovieri, I'll ask you and actually Councillor Dillon as well, if you have any questions, maybe put them in by way of email. And I'll ask any members of committee if you have any questions that you want to put into email to the Commissioner, to the Chief, that we can try and tackle during that meeting, and then back to committee they can have some of those answers. Okay. Thank you. Referrals on the floor. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Next item is the minutes from the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame Committee, April 6, 2017. Any questions? Seeing none, Councillor Williams will move that. All in favor? That carries. There's no correspondence. Council question period. Any questions from councillors? Seeing none. We will next move into our corporate services section. I'll ask the Chair, Miles, to take over. Before that, is there an appetite for a 9-minute recess? 9-minute recess. Thank you. We're recessed, not adjourned. Thanks.
We're going to call this meeting, members of the committee, we're going to call the meeting back to order. Okay, so moving on to Corporate Services Committee. Our first item on our agenda is a presentation by Fiona Peaceful, our Director of Human Resources, Office of the CAO, regarding People Advantage. And I personally am looking forward to this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council, members of staff, and members of the public. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today to talk about People Advantage. And I'm going to have a slideshow that will walk us through a bit of the discussion. So we recognize that there's a very clear strategic plan that was refreshed and updated and foundational to game changers. The important day-to-day work is people. We recognize that that will really be the people of Brampton will have a positive experience because of the Brampton employees. And so we want to talk a bit more about investing. So why People Advantage? So what is People Advantage? It's a people plan. So when we talk about people plan, we talk about how we treat each other, how we build teams, how we build leaders, how we hire, how we promote. And it's really about creating a culture that is evolving, that's about being respectful, engaging, that people feel they can contribute, and most importantly, it really creates that future-ready mindset. So time is now for Brampton. So we keep talking about these opportunities and how we're going to move forward, we're going to drive change. But unless we invest in our people, that won't happen. I think we've probably all worked with people who inspired us, who we learned from, who mentored us. And we've also worked for people who did the opposite. And really, we want to create a culture where the employees of Brampton feel like there's a real investment and a commitment to them. And engaged employees knock it out of the park for our customers. When I met with the mayor yesterday, she was talking about an exchange where we heard about someone who really made a difference. And we've seen it here. I've seen a number of folks invited. Vicky's not here with us this morning, but people who have knocked it out of the park for our customers. And that's what we want to build. We also want to retain and attract top talent. I know what's happening to me. I'm aging, so is the workforce. I was young at heart, but there's a fierce competition for talent. And we want Brampton to be seen as leading edge, and people want to come work here. But most importantly, as the HR person, we need to modernize the way we do our services and our programs. So my commitment to you and to council is that we will be coming back with a series of policies and procedures that need your approval. There's passion and enthusiasm within HR. What we're missing is very clear direction on policies and procedures. And as a result, I think it's sending us backwards, and we need to go forward. And often policy is the way to help us leapfrog the competition. So there's 3 things we're going to do to build a people plan. First, we're going to learn from industry leaders. We're going to determine what works here in Brampton. And most importantly is we want to hear from the voice of employees. And in fact, this morning, we're spending time with about 20 employees hearing what would engage them, what would inspire them as leaders. So industry leaders, there's national, local, provincial, international organizations that really are knocking it out of the park when it comes to engagement. Engaged organizations have about an 82% engagement score. Canada, it's about 80. Municipalities, we're about 60 to 65 on average. These are employers that really lead the pack, and we want to learn from that experience. The next is we want to learn from what works. We've had 40 interns to date this year. How can we bring more interns? How can we create an opportunity for our youth to feel connected to our work, to see the value of working in a public sector? Things like our learning and development, the employee benefits. We have a lot to build on, and we also have a lot of opportunity to refresh and redesign. And as I mentioned, the voice of the employee. So there's 5,500 employees who are here every single day wanting to make a difference. And if we don't ask them what would help them be engaged, feel that people care about them, they feel valued, respected, we're really not going to get anywhere. It has to be a made in Brampton solution for our employees. So we're doing face-to-face. So there's focus groups this morning. There's 10 in total. We're going out to some of our sites. Looking at the chief, we have a lot of operations, and Alex, that are 24/7. It's hard to get people to come out to face-to-face. So we're going out to meet with teams. We're also asking our people leaders to have some conversation. And lastly, we're doing a survey. A survey was sent out about a week and a half ago, and as of yesterday, we had over 100 responses. So I think that's really positive, that people are willing to share their voice with us. So we've talked about why. So engaged employees, you're high performing, you're enthusiastic, you're innovative, you're really driving results, and you make a difference for the customer. And if you look at some of these leading organizations, TELUS, Virgin, they know that if you care about your employees, they care about the customer, and the customer has a better experience. So our framework, there's effort to build our team, build employees, build leaders, and build a healthy workplace. And so I'm going to briefly talk about what this foundation is going to do. So research is clear. Investing in people makes good business sense. So you see here are some examples of metrics. Workplace injuries decrease, workplace absenteeism, you retain your talent, people are more productive, and they're having a better exchange with the customer. So building our team, things like our diversity and inclusion strategy. How are we building our diversity and inclusive competencies? How are we helping people have a better experience when they come here so they understand when we're going to hire you? A very, very clear process of this is what happens when we bring top talent in the door. And it's very, very transparent. Employees, investing in our employees. So career development. How are we mentoring you, growing you? How are your behaviors aligning with the values and the culture we want to see in Brampton? Leaders. So leaders are the most critical driver of engagement. As I mentioned earlier, if you work for an inspiring leader, you are inspired. If you work for a leader who doesn't encourage innovation, risk, change, you don't experience a positive work experience. So this is really a critical piece of this entire strategy. And lastly, the healthy workplace. So we know that, is it a work from anywhere policy? Is it how we design our workspaces? Is it how we create this opportunity for a collision of ideas for people to really spend time together, be more innovative, and a little bit more of a natural sense of collaboration? So lastly, there's a few things. We're going to come back to council in the fall with a comprehensive people plan. We are going to make sure that we're really driving our effort to align with customer service. We're going to modernize HR operations. So there's two policies I'll tell you right off the bat that cause me sleepless nights. One is our salary administration, and the other is how we recruit. And so those policies are priorities. And I have to say thank you to the staff in HR. It's been 2 months. They've been very receptive, open, and passionate about moving this change forward. But we need to think bigger about how we do HR for the City of Brampton. And lastly, we have set a stretch goal of 80% engagement for 2021. We need to have a very clear vision that we want to be leaders. We want people to say, I want to work for the City of Brampton, I want to stay here, I want to have my, my professional experience grow and develop because I'm here. And if we don't have a stretch goal, I think this is a good challenge for us. And lastly, so people are our foundation. There's 6,000 employees. There's 600,000 Bramptonians, and every single day they have an opportunity to make a difference. And I'm hoping that People Advantage will have a shared ownership. This isn't about HR. This is about our organization and all of our leaders and employees, and that they will knock it out of the park for our community. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to People Advantage. Thank you.
We'll also deal with the staff report at this time as well, which is following the presentation 7.2.1. So you can direct your questions to the presentation or the staff report. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. So I guess this question is to the presentation and the staff report. Well, I'll quote from the staff report: investing in people is a critical component to a future-ready mindset of thinking bigger to position Brampton as a global leader. Have we formalized, sound like a broken record again, have we formalized, or are we going to formalize future-ready? Because the reason I ask this is because it's a component of a mindset, and if people, perhaps if they had a website link to go to, they could see how it really fits in to future ready, and they could see, they can click on a link, or they can see where it branches out to People Advantage. Instead of, they could see a map instead of having to guess. And so they could also go to the Economic Development Master Plan, which I guess speaks about future ready. They could also see some of our Parks Master Plan, or they could see the 6 game changers. So I'm always reading future ready. I like future ready, but it seems like some arbitrary expression that we chose. And I keep hearing it's a mindset, but I think people want to know, and residents who have certainly asked me, map out the mindset. We want to see what the goal is for the next 10 or 20 years. What is your mindset? We have to keep guessing. So if it's a component of it, I think it'd be nice to see what the rest of the components are and how they all fit together. It's just a comment.
Yeah, thank you. And we recognize, we're hearing that from employees, they want to aspire to do more and do things differently, and we need to help them. So we actually have started mapping out what that future-ready mindset looks like and what it can look like from an employee perspective. So thank you.
Can it be formalized? Can a resident go to the website, see Future Ready, and see what we're doing?
Through you, Chair, I'll take your comments and we will formalize it as much as possible. We have come to you, I have come to you in many presentations about internally how we're thinking about that, thinking bigger about Brampton, progress over process, allowing people to more teamwork, more team-based versus silos. I've presented that to you several times on the internal, so the mindset. If you recall, when I started, everybody was talking about the past. So the mindset for our staff was think about when we're going to be 1 million people, think about the future. That was the mindset piece. We've also presented to you that on a few times, and we can formalize that a bit more, Councillor, is that we're a hub for innovation and jobs. We want to be on a global stage. So we can formalize that more and put that on our websites as well.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you for the chair. Thank you for the presentation. I think there's some real good things here, and I really like the approach. I also stay, late at night thinking about salaries and thinking about our recruitment. So I feel your pain. Just regarding engagement, are we going to be engaging with union groups? Because I think it's important that we engage with them. And, I think they have some real good insight, especially they deal with their employees and really on how, because sometimes in the corporate setting is one thing when you engage with the employees, but then after also dealing with the union groups who effectively are your spokespeople. So I think that's a real important component that we have in terms of engagement. I guess my second part would be, from the community, I think a lot of the councillors hear this a lot, is our recruitment practices. It's no comment yay or nay, it's just the impression out there in the community, how hard it is to get in here, and it's usually either through family member or so on. I'm not sure if it's consistent across other organizations. If there's some policy that, I'm not sure while you're in council, or be it an employee, in terms of family members being recruited. I'm not saying excluding, but if there's some type of consideration or declaration that has to be done. Even if you look at internships, you often hear it's, when I worked at the province, it was often, sons and daughters of employees who got the internships, who got pulled in. Especially with the changing demographics of our community, especially with the newer groups, they don't have access to the type of influence and power because there are new Canadians and they haven't been in the system long enough to be able to provide those same opportunities. I would just hope that, especially the community that we're serving, that we're very delicate in mind and cognizant of the fact that the community we serve, we really have to be able to look towards them and have the City Hall really engage with our local folks to, and not necessarily discriminate against getting talent from other cities, but we would just not have this sort of fortress City Hall impression out there, and that Bramptonians generally feel that they have an opportunity to work here as anyone else. So I just think that we have to be mindset of that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bowman?
Do you want me to just respond? Through you, Madam Chair. So thank you for your comments. So first, unions are a critical partner. We will not be able to see results without working together as partners. And in fact, there's a meeting scheduled in a few weeks where our Manager of Labour Relations, Louise Moore, and Harry, our CAO, we're bringing together all of our union partners to talk about People Advantage, talk about the opportunity. On your second point about, we do ask when people are interviewed to disclose a family relationship.
I've certainly heard that there's the public perception, and really what we want to do is come back to council in the fall with a very clear recruitment and retention policy that talks about, because you want the top talent, and it shouldn't disqualify you because you have a relative. However, we need to be more transparent in our recruitment efforts. Thank you.
Mr. Schlein?
Can I just say one thing outside of that we're meeting with the union leaders? Our whole philosophy, our new leadership team, is this is the most important piece of government. Our staff are directly interfacing with the public every day. So we're out there, we're the ones that are supporting the staff that are doing the jobs. We're inverting the pyramid of an org chart. I'm the biggest piece of overhead at the bottom, supporting staff. So our mindset isn't just with the union leaders, but the most critical staff is the people that are doing the job every day. And that's the philosophy we're trying to pursue with this strategy as well.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Bowman?
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I'm on, okay. I just want to talk about the framework, our starting point page. Those numbers, are they numbers that you've discovered while being here? I mean, 10% customer service effectiveness?
Actually, through you, Madam Chair, I actually think that's probably a low number.
I would hope it's a low number.
Yeah. I think it's an improvement.
So 10% improvement.
Sorry, yes, it's an increase of 10%. My apologies.
Okay, good. I missed that part. Now, are these numbers, how did you come to these numbers? How did you decide we wanted that number of an improvement?
So through you, Madam Chair, these are examples of data that you get from organizations like Gallup, Conference Board of Canada, Mercer Canada. So these are organizations that specialize in engagement, and they're saying if you get engagement right, these are some of the results you will see. So People Advantage may not get us exactly to those numbers, but it will show that by making an intentional measured effort, hopefully we see, increased productivity, we see better results for our customers, we see more engaged employees, and they feel safer and they feel equipped to do their job, and less injuries, as an example. So those are examples of what national and global organizations have seen as a result of investing in employees, and it is certainly a goal for the City of Brampton as well.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Harry?
Just to complement that, because I came from the private sector, when we increased our engagement scores, like from 70 to 80, our profitability went up by 5 to 7%. Our customer service loyalty went up by either 8 to 10%. So these are real numbers. Some of these numbers, we've been talking to TELUS a lot, and they're actually at the 82 to 87%, because we don't want to compare ourselves to municipalities. Our residents get service from other private sector groups. So our stretch goal should be the 80 to 85, not the 60 to 65 you're seeing in municipalities. They see profit increases, they see those customer service numbers. So we've studied this quite a bit.
Good, 100% agree with you. The talent retention, I'm interested to know how you measure talent retention.
So through you, Madam Chair, to measure talent retention, there's a couple of different variables you can use. You can talk about how do you promote from within, what's your turnover rate, how are people choosing to stay with the organization? Because you can often ask the question, do you see yourself in the organization in a year when you pull engagement? So there's probably 6 or 7 data points that we could use to measure talent retention. Unfortunately, I said earlier, people don't necessarily leave organizations, they leave their leader. And that's what the research shows. So the relationship between leader and employee is another critical tool to measure whether you're going to be able to retain your talent. But at the end, it's whether people stay.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because in every organization, you've got the top talent, the bottom talent. It's all talent, one way or the other. And, measuring your talent retention, are you measuring those people who consistently receive 4 and 5s on their performance grades, or are we measuring those people who may be getting 2s on their performance appraisals? And so when I see talent retention, I'm hoping that those are the top quality, top-notch employees that we're retaining. So the last question I have sort of piggybacks on Councillor Madero's question. How involved is the union's scores, their surveys of employee happiness and stuff in your work? Are you taking those and putting them together, or are you?
Oh, yeah.
So through you, Madam Chair, we'll be looking at this as a comprehensive lens for all City of Brampton employees. So you can, kind of cut the data in different ways. So you can look at data if you wanted to of who's union, who's non-union, who works in, community services, who works in economic development. So you can take the data, but at the end, we're going to have a comprehensive summary for all City of Brampton employees. But in general, it may or may not be a good practice to measure the union versus non-union.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
But
I'm asking,
it will be fully embedded.
Right. Is the union going to have the input into some of these scores? And
100%.
Right, okay,
yes,
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wellens.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the report. I came from the private sector as well, and part of no matter how good our prices were, no matter how good our products were, if our customer service wasn't good, we weren't the number one, we weren't the leaders. So in fact, one of our slogans was that the industry doesn't tell us we're number one, our customers do. So that's very important. And I guess I would be remorse if I didn't mention, we do have a leader here and sitting at our table. Councillor Paleshi has been nominated by the Brampton Board of Trade, an outside organization, for Under 40 Award to be held in June.
Nice.
So congratulations. Give away my aim. Thanks very much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Jeffrey.
Congratulations, Councillor Plechy. Oh, cool. Excellent. Fiona, you brought some of your staff today?
Yes.
We don't usually get to see our HR staff.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I'm very grateful that they left their desks to come and be part of this, because we're part of it together, and I think we're feeling good and feeling like we're owning this. So thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mayor.
So I wanted to say thank you for the report. We are an evolving organization, and I think that it's important to have stretch goals. And one of the stretch goals I have is for us to be an organization people choose to work for, and that we're an employer of choice, and that is something that I aspire for Brampton to be. And I think the challenge is for people who work in HR, you get a lot of grief. And I think we've had some really good hires lately, and I know it's been challenging. You've gone through a lot of resumes, but I think you've made some really good choices, so thank you. Thank you for your advice. I appreciate it. I think the strength of this organization is its people. And as you, I think, alluded to earlier, I have, in the last 2 days, had 2 compliments, but I've had to kind of pull it out of people and say, please, would you put that in writing so that I can share that with their boss or their director or somebody, so that they know that this staffer thinks outside the box and is creative and is really trying to develop a better feeling about the city, and not that we're so rigid that we can't look at other suggestions. And I think that's really important to me. So my question to you, the only one I think I have, and it kind of alludes to what Councillor Bowman was talking about, how are we going to measure customer service effectiveness? I don't know if you have a baseline in order to determine that we're moving in the right direction. Do you have a baseline?
So through you, Madam Chair, we don't have a clear baseline, and really what we need to do, and I think in our view, is develop a very comprehensive customer service framework. So we look at how do we define customer service, and what are the 3 or 4 key areas? How do we define it around place, the customer experience? And that's not in place yet. So it's for a challenge for us is to make sure we have a very clear baseline that we can have very quickly, and we can start moving forward.
The other thing that you haven't spoken about, but something I hope that someday we get to the conversation, is the mentoring and the succession planning needs to be part of how we all do better jobs. If we have somebody who's showing us how to do it and showing us when we make errors or we can do things better, and it really is important to have somebody in your corner who helps you learn how to do the job better and to raise the bar for us as a city. So.
and through you, Madam Chair, full agreement. And we actually have a priority set to develop a mentorship program, to develop a succession plan, and really something's called a high potential framework, where you look at your high potential. So those folks that are, knocking out of the park, that are role models, that people hold up in esteem as an example of how a City of Brampton employee can be. So we have that, we're going forward. We're waiting to hear back from our employees to make sure we're hitting the mark and that we're tailoring it for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Fiona, and thank you to the staff from the Human Resources Department. I think this is really a good news story, a step forward in the right direction, and we just look forward to seeing the results of the work that's completed. So I'm hoping that you will keep council informed along the way.
Absolutely, thank you.
So I would take a motion then to move by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Palache, that the recommendations in the report be received. Be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is a report on modernizing corporate service policies and procedures. It's here really for your information, but be happy to I'm sure Mr. Patari would be happy to answer any questions that you might have in regards to this report. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, we do.
Okay, we do have a presentation.
A great morning to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to briefly speak with you today. This presentation is truly a reflection of the inspiration provided to corporate services from this term of council, as well as the visionary and leadership of our CAO, Harry Schlang, and our corporate leadership team in terms of really providing the architecture for change and allowing corporate services to be those agents of change. That there is a need to modernize this organization. You've said it very clearly as part of the last several years, and we've taken that to heart. And what we've put together, and briefly for your information, are a series of quick initiatives that we are working on, and other ones that will take longer, but it again provides a bit of a story so that you see there is progress being made in the short term and longer term to make us that dynamic organization. It is really about having the right people in the right places with the right tools and technology. It's about implementing that strategic and pragmatic way forward. We are not just thinking outside the box anymore where we need to. We're rethinking the box and conveying to all, and this is being embraced by our corporate services team, that we are not just the back office, we are the art of the possible. We are enabling this organization, and we will continue to support this organization. So with that, I want to provide a few highlights of some of the key areas we're working on right now. There's 4 areas that I want to bring to your attention. One is the Delegation of Authority bylaw. Our lead on that is Claire Hicks, and she is working diligently across the organization to look at ways and means of streamlining that bylaw, and some effective work has been done to summarize and synthesize that work. We're bringing that back, and I'll give you a little bit more feedback on that in a moment. James McIntyre, our Director of Purchasing, is working at streamlining the work done with respect to procurement through two channels, and I'll speak to that again very shortly. Our City Treasurer, Dave Sutton, is our lead on our financial planning and policies. Again, there's some short-term work and longer-term work he's trying to tackle and bring forward to us to enable us to be a much more effective and collaborative team. There's also a number of innovative systems that we're looking at implementing, and these will take a longer time to work on, but it requires a group effort, and that's being done through our People Systems Steering Committee of Staff. Greater details on these are provided in the report, but I'll give you some highlights on those. With respect to the Delegation of Authority bylaw, we're doing outreach with our client groups to obtain their input, some of their pressure points and challenges, and some things to facilitate the ease of getting work done. The risk matrix is being finalized, and Claire is putting together that synthesis. We're going to be bringing that forward to our CLT in the summer, followed by bringing that report to council with our proposed changes for your consideration in September. With respect to purchasing, the two streams I had indicated, one is there are a lot of red tape challenges with respect to purchasing. Some of them are outside the bylaw, some have to do with the bylaw. We are doing a comprehensive review of the bylaw plan for later this year, and again, following the same protocol and process, we'll do those amendments and suggestions and our due diligence, bring that to our corporate leadership team for their input, and then bring it to council in January of 2018 for your consideration for amendments. But I don't want to wait, nor does this organization want to wait that long to streamline what we do. And looking at some of the unnecessary steps, and looking at some of the things that came out of the Ombudsman report, as well as the other good work that under the direction and leadership of our Director of Innovation and Corporate Performance, Rhonda Singos, she completed an operational review, and I know you'll be getting an update on that at a future meeting. But again, some great work from that team that's provided us insights on how to improve and enhance what we do in purchasing. P-cards are also an opportunity for us. We're looking at ways and means of implementing and improving that system. We're looking at other items such as reducing the additional types of sign-off that exist with respect to expense forms. And again, we're looking at leveraging vendors of records and standing offer agreements to, again, reduce procurement timelines. And these are underway. We have some in place, and we're going to continue on with that. The intent or idea is a number of initiatives, including e-signatures, our new e-bidding system that's been launched. This will significantly reduce, in terms of weeks, the entire procurement timeline cycle for us. So something that typically would take 10 weeks, we can get it down to 6 to 7 weeks, maybe even quicker depending on the complexity. So again, we're enabling businesses to work more effectively for us. We're improving the relationship and eliminating the stress with our vendor community to ensure that we have good, effective controls in place, yet allowing businesses to be as efficient, as effective as possible. With respect to our innovative systems, as I mentioned, our People Systems Steering Committee of Staff, we meet on a regular basis looking at some key systems such as our talent and learning management systems is a new system we're looking to implement, which links to one of the comments about mentoring and succession planning and how we invest in our people and our people advantage. Our ERP is our Enterprise Resource Planning System, which is really a business process management software that allows an organization to use its system and integrate its applications to best manage the business and automate a lot of the back office components related to technology, finance, and human resources. We're looking at making amendments and potentially going with a new system in 2019. We're putting our due diligence into that to ensure we have the best system in place for a cost-effective perspective. A new time and attendance system, i.e. we need to get away from these silly timesheets and all the signatures related to them. We need to manage the variances related to those. And we are on target for the acquisitions for those systems, and they'll take time to negotiate and put in place, but over time we will become more efficient and effective. Our point of sale systems for recreation, which is the replacement for our class system, that's just been finalized, and we're excited that we have a new system in place, and we are working with transit to ensure that we improve our point of sale system there so that our customers aren't waiting a significant amount of time to get their cards loaded up to use our services. Finance is next in our phase with point of sale after that, but we decided to make it in phases to ensure that our businesses were getting the support they need. Financial planning, there's some key highlights here. Simply one that you're familiar with and you'll hear more about in coming weeks is our long-term financial master plan under our city treasurer's leadership. It includes numerous recommendations and key actions for the city to consider implementing. One area we're looking at also is looking with respect to delegation for sign-off and lowering it to division leads, i.e. the cost centers themselves. And to do that, we'll be looking to update our budget policy to align with that delegated authority and financial spending. there are a number of times where minimal amounts are getting signed off 3, 4, 5 times, when in fact it should sit with the accountability and transparency for that business owner. And there's a number of minor policies, again, similar to what Fiona was just presenting, that we'll be reviewing and bringing back to you as they come down, an example being the cash handling policies. So overall, that is a synthesis and high-level review of bringing you up to speed on a number of things we have been working on and will continue to work on, and I'm happy to take any questions at any time.
Thank you, through the chair. I just wanted to, Joe, this is great work. It's really to appreciate how transformative this is, what you're doing, because really it's that horizontal impact that you're having across all departments. You're reporting as a corporate department, but it's wide-reaching, and and often it's one of these unsung heroes that a lot of the changes that you've made, these tweaks, really have impact on the type of service and even have budgetary impact sometimes in terms of how we're savings that we can find, or even how much revenue we can even build up. So I just want to say thank you and fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Miles. And through you, Joel, thank you very much for bringing this forward. I have to say that, we've had a couple conversations where you've said to me, it's coming, and finally, in specific, talking to, red tape related procurement, I realize that you're probably still in the probation period of your employment, and I think seeing stuff like this coming forward is exactly what I wanted to see achieved when I was started to become a counselor. So things that keep Councillor Medeiros up at night, and the things that keep me up at night, red tape being one of them. And I know it's a very it's a fine line that you can dabble in because of the amount of red tape that you have to have as a municipality, and doing things also in a transparent way. It does make it hard, but thinking outside of the box, and not only, I love the saying, changing
rethinking the box.
Rethinking the box. I absolutely love that. It's fantastic, and thank you for bringing this forward. It's about time.
Thank you. I think this is the first time I've seen the Future Ready as a Mindset logo. I think it's great. I don't know who designed it, but that's excellent. Pardon me?
It's a brain.
Yeah, I get that. I understood that. That's what I said. I think it's very clever. My only question on this, thank you very much. I have to say, with both Fiona's presentation and yours today, I feel a sense of calmness where there wasn't such calmness before. So I want to thank you for that. How is this going to change the reporting to council? Because we're accustomed to seeing certain reports on delegated authority and procurement, those that fit in the with compliance, and those that didn't. Is there going to be a different reporting structure or mechanism? Are we going to see the reports change? And I don't need an answer right now, but I do think that as we change the way you do business, we can't just continue to try to fit your new way of doing business into an old reporting structure to council. So if you could take that under consideration. Otherwise, the work that you're doing will not be recognized and appreciated because we're seeing the same old, same old. And maybe the information is the same, but how it's reported could look differently.
And thank you, and through the chair, we are taking that under advisement, Councillor Moore, and that part of that is you won't see those changes until council endorses and approves those changes. We want to ensure that you have that transparency with us.
Terrific, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you, Joe, for the presentation. Actually, I did also notice that the brain normally is just gray matter, but in this one here you have 1, 2, 3 different colors, so that gives me the impression that we have versatility to to think that, to find new solutions, or maybe redesign the brain to be more open-minded and think that look for new ways of doing things. The question I have for you is, and we've heard this before from other people like you that stood before us about coming up with new systems and modernizing and so on. So the question I have for you now is: is your department actually developing something really modern and different, or is it, or other municipalities are using these modernized systems that we have fallen behind, from what I'm hearing?
Through the chair, there are opportunities for us to build our own systems and leverage the knowledge and skills and ability of our tremendous staff in our various divisions. And in some cases, it is looking at what other jurisdictions are doing as part of our due diligence when we're looking at acquiring new systems. All municipalities have been put on notice years ago that class was going to become redundant and obsolete. And everyone's been hoping and kind of closing their eyes and holding their nose, waiting, not wanting to deal with it because it's a big, complex problem. But yet, I commend Brampton for the work that they did in putting that due diligence in and finding a new vendor that all of a sudden everyone else is going to be looking at us to see how well and successful it is, and then leveraging us and piggybacking on our good work. So there are times where it makes sense for us to look at what others do and replicate, and other times we are doing what makes the most sense for Brampton.
Yeah, okay. And thank you for that. And from my understanding is obviously there's different suppliers out there that are promoting their own system as being the best, just like everything else. The French say they got the best wine, and the Italians say they've got the best wine, and so on. So thanks for that, and I'm really looking forward to make streamlining, and also, and I understand that a lot of the red tape was put in place for safeguards, and we want to maintain those safeguards, but always make it more efficient. So I think that's the goal that we're working towards. Is that correct?
Through the chair, you are correct, but there's also been some changes to legislation such as the E-Commerce Act, which now has actually reduced the amount of formal handwritten signatures we need, and we can leverage e-signatures to facilitate business. So those are some of the things we're also looking at to improve our business as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would you like to move the recommendation that the report be received?
Certainly.
Moved by Councillors Brovieri. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Patari. Moving on to item 7.2.5. It's a report from Mr. Sutton, our treasurer, in regards to the 2016 year-end operating budget and reserve report. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Sprovieri, you're still on the board.
No, I'm...
Okay. 7.2.5. Mr. Sutton. Glad to see you're on 2 feet again. I don't have any speakers on the board. I just had one point that I would like to highlight in regards to this report, which I really think is a good news story and very indicative of the good financial situation that the city of Brampton finds itself in. And could you just address the fact that the AAA is the highest credit rating a municipality can receive, and according to Standard & Poor's, the rating reflects the city's solid economic fundamentals, and the fact that there are only 6 Canadian municipalities who have earned this particularly high rating.
Thanks, through you, Chair Miles. As you can recall, a couple of years ago, actually, the City of Brampton, we actually had fallen to a AAA negative outlook But in 2016, over the course of the end of 2015, 2016, we had taken a number of efforts to obviously improve our financial situation here at the city. And that's obviously reflected in the improvement in terms of our credit rating score through Standard & Poor's, moving it from the negative outlook to a stable outlook. When you comment about the number of municipalities, I just want to, I want to temper that a bit, just because this is in relation to Standard & Poor's only. There are other credit rating agencies out there that do provide credit outlooks. So I do want to just temper that and say that there are other municipalities that use other credit rating agencies beyond Standard & Poor's. So
you don't need to temper it. I think
it is very good, though.
I think it's a very good news story. So a AAA negative rating would still be considered a pretty darn good rating.
Yes,
right?
it's more in terms of it's very good. In fact, in a lot of situations, even AA is not a bad situation. AAA is very good.
Can you recall how many years that we've actually had a AAA credit rating?
We have, I can't recall how long we've been doing
Okay, good. That's it. Thank you. I would take a motion then to, Councillor Pelletier.
Well, that's okay, Madam Chair. I just wanted to confirm. So we're the best again?
We're the best again.
I'm happy to move the report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The report's been moved by Councillor Pelletier. All in favor? That's carried. That's great. Thank you. Item 7.2.6 is the 2016 year-end capital project financial status report and budget amendment. Any questions? Nobody's on the board. I take a motion then that the report be received. Okay, moved by Councillor Willens. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7.2.9 is a report from Mr. Fay in regards to matters arising from the Member Services Committee meeting of May the 18th. And there is an accompanying in-camera document. Members of Council, would you prefer to deal with the in-camera document first and then come back to deal with the other report, or do you want to just receive the report, the public report? Councillor Pelletier?
So, Madam Chair, I'm open to whatever you wish to do. I have questions. I just don't know if my questions are going to be related to in-camera or out camera. So maybe I suggest that we do go in camera, and then I'm open to.
Okay. Would members of council like to deal with this item during your lunch break? You could actually have lunch and deal with the in-camera item. Councillor Sprovieri says no. Everybody else says yes.
Take a vote.
What's that?
Take a vote on it.
Yes. During lunch. Okay. So we'll deal with the in-camera report then during lunch, and we will come back and deal with the public report following that.
Yes, so through you, Madam Chair, I think we just need to pass a motion to move into closed session during the lunch break, and the reason for going into closed session is to deal with personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations or employee negotiations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on then, we'll move on to item 7.3.2, which is an item that I had added to the agenda. I'm going to ask the clerk if he would kindly hand out a second document that I'd like to share with members of council. Okay, so members of council, I've asked to add this item onto the agenda because of concerns that I have in regards to some of the media reports that have been coming out in our local media, and the message that I think it's relaying to the public. I think the residents of Brampton, they deserve to be provided with all the facts on a story, and they deserve to receive the facts without bias and without innuendo. And I have raised this issue with my colleagues in the past, and I've raised it with the press, and I've basically been told you're best to just keep your mouth shut, because at the end of the day, the press has all the ink. But there's nothing that makes me angrier than injustice, and I think the city of Brampton is not being served well by the kind of media reporting that we're having. And I do have a motion, but I would like to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So, members of council, you all recall the conversation that we had in council about the high-speed rail system, and how members of council voiced their concerns that the province had left the city of Brampton out of the equation, and the amount of concern that we had about that. One would expect that the press in that regard would have been about council's concern about the fact that Brampton was not on the high-speed rail line. But no, the story in the media was totally different. It said, Mayor Linda Jeffrey says Brampton has seen stagnation on the transit file, with an underlying veteran councillors show little work on transit expansion. That's the story in the press. So I've also given you all copies of an email to me, Councillor Gibson, and Councillor Moore from the reporter Peter Criscione. And I'm going to read it to you, because this, I think, really demonstrates what I'm talking about. Thank you, Councillor, for getting back to me. I do have some follow-up questions regarding Council's handling of the transit file. If possible, I would appreciate a response by the end of the day, today, 4:30. Brampton is dealing with huge transit files like BRT, LRT, the push for expanded GO service. Given all of the obvious demands facing this city regarding transit, why isn't there a standalone committee or commission dedicated exclusively to transit, similar to other large urban centres? Wouldn't the chair of such a committee be empowered to sit with provincial or federal officials to discuss advancing transit investment in Canada's ninth largest city? Yesterday's council discussion was the latest in a series of debates on transit. Members of council, including yourself, expressed concerns regarding the city's exclusion on high-speed rail. Can you show me, council, minutes or any other example of where you specifically advocated for transit expansion or set up a meeting with the province or Metrolinx to discuss transit? If not, why would you have raised concerns about the HSR? What direct contact have you made, not staff or the mayor, with the province on two-way all-day GO service, BRT or LRT, or other transit files? What do you do to keep yourself informed weekly on the transit issue? What have you done on the transit file during your time on council? My 30 years. So, that came in to me at 10:45 at Regional Council on Thursday, with the response expected by 4:55. So I'm going to read you my response. This is an impossible deadline, as we are in Regional Council today and we have meetings following. What I can say is, if you're trying to build a case that we have not been actively planning, advocating, and pursuing investment in all forms of public transportation, you are not informed. At that time, I realized that these questions had been sent to only 3 people, Councillor Moore, Councillor Gibson, and me. I further said, both at Regional Council and City Council, we are engaged in the discussion, studies, transportation committees, advocacy at AMO, FCM, transportation master plans, Metrolinx planning bodies, meetings with MPs and MPPs, and more. All of this, including reports, recommendations, and meetings, are part of the public record. The mayor and regional chair are tasked by council to communicate our position with the big city mayors and regional chairs. Mayor McCallion and Mayor Fennell served on the GO Transit Board, then Metrolinx, and both actively advocated for two-way all-day GO. Grant, Elaine, and I have served on the Government Relations Committee and advocated with both levels of government on transit issues. I also served on FCM and participated in advocacy days in Ottawa. All-day, two-way GO has always been a top priority of council. Best I can do with so little notice, you can access all of the reports, committees, etc., with the city and the region. So Councillor Moore's also addressed it, and you have it before you. But what I would like to highlight out in this report is, number one, it says that I'm not going to deal with everything that I think is inaccurate in the report. Miles and other councillors who publicly complained about the province could only point generally to staff reports and responses by the city to various transit initiatives led by Queen's Park. And further on in the report, it says, however, when asked what meetings they've initiated or attended at Metrolinx or Queen's Park, and what they've done specifically to actively push for transit funding and expansion at the province and federal levels, councillors could not provide any such examples. Instead, councillors referred to agendas and meetings of the very general conversation about transit. So,
Sure, Miles, you have that. Sure, Miles.
just, you don't have the floor, sorry. So, you don't have the floor. So, members of council, following my, this email to Mr. Crisconi, he did say, okay, fine, we're going to give you till Monday night. But at that time, both, or all, Councillor Moore and I and Councillor Gibson, we had a discussion and we said, doesn't matter what we're going to say, the story is already written. So because of that, I have a resolution that I would like to put on the floor. And I think what this resolution is going to do is it's going to increase the transparency and the accountability of what is communicated to our public. It's a really simple motion, and I'm hoping that council will support it. And the motion is, be it resolved that copies of all media inquiries received by the mayor, members of council, and staff be posted to the city website along with the responses provided. Pretty simple. Reporter wants to ask a question, they can ask the question, but they need to do it knowing that it's going to be posted to the website, and that members of council, the mayor, and staff, when they respond to it, they will also post their answer to the website. And further that Committee of Council and Council's agenda have a section for members of council to speak publicly on recent stories, media stories, related to our decisions or issues that may impact the City of Brampton. I think it's really, really important that our community receives the facts about what's happening in the municipality. Up until now, without a motion like this, the press can do and say whatever they want. And, quite frankly, I've had enough. I've had enough of the injustice in the kind of reporting that I see in the Brampton Guardian that really is not fair to the residents of this community. So it's a simple motion, and I ask for council's support, It's just increasing accountability and transparency. If the media wants to ask a question, feel free. Here's the answer. If a member of council responds, there's what the councillor said, and the media can write whatever story they want. But at the end of the day, at council meeting, when the council, the councillors will have the opportunity in an open and public forum to actually respond to some of the stories that they believe may not be appropriately representing the truth. And having said all of that, I assume that the kind of press that I've been receiving in the last 6 months is going to continue. However, I think it's time for council to take a stand. So thank you. Councillor Sprovieri.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just a couple of comments regarding this whole matter. I see I was not, I'm one of the oldies, but I wasn't mentioned in the article. So, and it may be because the three councillors who were mentioned were very critical at the meeting where they really criticized the province for not including Brampton in the high-speed rail in their plans. And I certainly agree with the concern that both you and Councillor Gibson and Grant expressed. And to some extent, I also made a few comments, not really as powerful and emotional as yourself and the other two councillors, and maybe that is the reason why you were targeted in these questions. But I think that what really may have, and I don't know whether the mayor was misquoted in this article, or whether that's her exact words, where the mayor says that Brampton has seen stagnation on the transit file, and I don't know whether that was an interpretation that the reporter made of the mayor's comments, but certainly, in my view, these were if these were exact words of the mayor, I think that this is what actually ignited the whole matter and caused the story to be written the way it was, because it's a very serious comment from the mayor saying that we're stagnated, and and I really take exception to that comment because, and it may be because the mayor maybe is still sour over the LRT decision that we made. And it could be that this is motivating or influence her comments. But I have to say that I certainly don't agree with that Brampton is stagnated at all. And as being the vice chair of the transit committee, and I can rattle. I mean, the city has been continually expanding transit service to right across the board, right to continually. We're every year, every budget we put more employees. We hire, we buy new buses. We're now going electric buses. I mean, we're really I think that really moving forward and keeping up with the times. And as you know, we have the LRT, we have the EA occurring to identify the best route for Brampton, not the route that the province thought was the best for Brampton, but what actually council thinks is the best route for Brampton. So I don't see that as stagnation. I think we're moving forward. We're moving forward with the Queen Street corridor. We do right now. We're doing the studies there for the rapid transit there. That's going on, and so I think these were very poor words from the mayor, and if they were accurate, and perhaps the mayor could speak to it if they were accurate or not. If they were accurate, then I think that was probably the cause of this whole article, and which I believe is very misleading and not accurate, because certainly our transit has been really progressive, and we're moving, and we're providing a service to the new communities. I was surprised to see a stop in front of St. Patrick Church in Wildfield. I said, why would we put a stop in front of St. Patrick's Church? You know, I don't know how many people go to church on a bus, and actually the priest was complaining about being placed right in front of the church, and we had it moved a little bit because, but certainly, and that's a brand new area. The Vales of the Humber, brand new. The houses are still under construction, and we have transit service there happening today. And the same thing is happening on the west side of Brampton. So certainly I don't agree with the mayor's comments that we're stagnant here in Brampton. I think we're doing our job, and I think that staff has been very proactive in making recommendations to council, and we've been moving along in providing the service and improving the service. So we're just Zoom is going to be expanded on Airport Road, I believe this year, September, is it? Can I ask just a clarification? Through you, Madam Chair, to staff, just to see if it's in September, or is it already happening now?
No, that'll be implemented in the new year, but part of the whole acquisition of the vehicles and the planning and the road construction will happen throughout this year.
Right.
But we'll be deploying it and commissioning it next year.
Thank you. And and we're also the study for the Queen Street rapid transit, that's also ongoing, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. The Queen Street Master Plan is ongoing and progressing well. We just had the first public information session not too long ago.
And EEA for the LRT, that's also has started and it's ongoing. So certainly I don't see that as being stagnant. I think there's a lot of movement going on for the transit, and I used to get a lot of complaints from my constituents about transit service in the past, and actually I had one complaint from the first resident who moved into the Vales of the Humber, student, saying, how am I going to get to school? And before you know it, we have a bus going there providing the service. So certainly I don't see that as being stagnant at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sparvier.
You're welcome.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to reinforce the need to live stream our council meetings and our committee meetings, especially with the news and the announcement on Rogers. People aren't going to, tune into YouTube if it's there and available and they can listen to it at work or while they're at home. We absolutely need to get that up and running ASAP. There was a motion quite some time ago to make the videotapes available, but we have the capacity, other municipalities do it, and we should be doing it as well. In speaking to the motion, I know that when I get questions generally from the media, and I think others do it as well, we automatically copy Harry and Aaron Ohosky so that you know how we've responded, that first of all, that a media inquiry came in, and that make them aware of how we've responded to that. I think that but the public don't get to see that, and they certainly don't get to see the context and the entire content of what our quote or our comments to the press in response to questions. So I think that this is an appropriate motion. I don't think it involves a great deal of complexity in terms of making it available on the website. I think our residents deserve and expect healthy debate around this table. And while the mayor sees the announcement on the HSR a little differently than some of the other councillors around the table, it doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong. And that's how it's been characterized in the press, that somehow it's going to sell papers or provide more readership to a story, drive more readership to that story, if it's positioned in the press as somehow there's this major conflict around the table. And that just absolutely is simply not the case. And our residents deserve better reporting than that. This council works well, and we are moving issues of the city moving forward. It doesn't mean that there aren't conflicts from time to time, but healthy debate is good for the city, and it's good for decision making. It's interesting. Zoom Transit, by absolutely every definition, has been one of the most successful transit initiatives in the country. both in terms of ridership, how it was introduced into the community, the expansions. It was a three-party, $900 million project at the time when it was approved back in 2003 between the federal government, the province, and the municipality. And what's really even more interesting is that just yesterday we got an announcement from staff that the province is coming out to do a film on Brampton's Zoom Transit and how it is a wonderful example, a shining example of how a three-party transit initiative is, and they want to take credit for it. So you can't take credit for something that you've invested in and in the next breath suggest that we're a municipality that is stagnant on transit. It is absolutely simply not true. Councillor Miles and I committed to bring a motion forward in the, given the conversation and the comments that we made at committee last week. But, given this newspaper story, we've had to rethink some of the whereases and what direction we should be going. So I guess this is kind of a notice that it'll, if it can be embedded in the minutes for today's meeting, but we will commit to having a motion ready for council next week and provide that as soon as we possibly can. But, there are some comments in this story that are simply not serving our residents and not serving this council. And, I've talked about how we are trying to build confidence between staff and council and between council and our community. And this just is not helping. There has been a tremendous amount of heavy lifting that's been taking place. We congratulate staff on their reports and their initiatives and moving this community forward, and stories like this set us back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Dillon?
It's a very bizarre motion, almost childish. And the question is, how would we police this? And is this a requirement or is this mandatory? It's written here for all further that all future committees of council and council agendas include a section for members of council to speak publicly on recent media stories. And it says that copies of all media inquiries be received, be posted to the city website. Does that include radio interviews, questions that they ask? Does that include TV interviews? Does that include phone interviews? And do we provide transcripts for that? I'm not going to speak to the article. That's up to somebody's opinion. I'm only going to speak to the motion. To me, if this passes, this is just another example of this council wanting us to be robots of the corporation. We're politicians. We need thick skins, and it reminds me of Donald Trump's war against the media. Everyone's had negative reports or articles written about them. Seems like sour grapes now. For the LRT, there was an editorial written. You can write an editorial. You can tell people to go to your website. You can go on social media. You can guide them to stream, or if they're on for Rogers until August 31st, they can see that. So I don't see what the purpose of this is. If you don't like the reporting, there's other means to get your message out. You can have town halls. You can go speak to people. You can send an email out to some of the people you follow through the various email programs that many politicians have. It's just, if you don't like an article, there's many other means to get your own message out, but to force me to put my inquiries to the website just seems, it's absurd. So I don't support it. I don't see the point of it. And again, if you don't like the article, use the other means that are given to you to get your message out.
Thank you. Councillor Palache?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to the mover of the motion, which is yourself, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. You can't move it? Sure. Okay. The second part of the motion, does this give us the opportunity to, how there's some good news stories in in media releases that that don't hit the front page or first or second page, they're kind of buried. Does this give us the opportunity to bring those good news stories and talk a little bit about them to a council meeting, to the committee of council? Does it give us that opportunity? Peter, is your interpretation?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes.
Thank you.
I would also say that, council can do that today. They do that at committee of council through question period or adding items to an agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, what I can support the motion. I think that I don't know if you don't support the motion, it can be perceived that you have maybe something to hide. So I don't know why you wouldn't support it. I think it's a good motion, in the accountable and transparent way. I think it's definitely supportable. I can support it. I got the feeling that there may be a member of the public that may want to that wanted to add some comments. We'll probably have them come at public question period. Would it be okay for council just to have that portion at this time, or after we're done with this item? Okay. Well, I still am happy to support it. I did have another question, but I can't seem to recall it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Medeiros?
Thank you, through the chair. I think there would be a former mayor who would have supported this motion. I'm finding this bizarre because we're now intervening political with our corporate resources. So we're going to be using a corporate resource, which is a city website, to ensure our political, reputation or promotion. Regarding the article per se, there's articles that are written all the time. It's one of the fundamental rights of democracy is the independency of the media. We could pinpoint every story and claim its accuracies or inaccuracies. As rightfully Councillor Dillon pointed out, there's other vehicles in which you can use, which don't have to use the corporation in terms of your constituent letter, in terms of your contacts, door knocking. You can get your side out. And in terms of, the effectiveness of your work, I think we're judged once every 4 years, and there's an election coming up, and people can make their case if the transit file's been stagnant or not, and let the voters decide. But to provide this motion, I'd first ask the probably staff, how have we ever had a municipality in Canada do this? That's one. Second, thank you. Oh, to the CEO. Okay, so in terms of, are there any concerns in terms of resources that we're being used from a corporation for this motion? Are there any impacts? Have we studied this motion?
Through you, Chair, we've just seen this motion. In fact, our head of corporate communication just saw it 10 minutes ago. Much like the policy of council's been, if I may, for your consideration, we could at least take this back and give you some input to this motion before you make a decision. That would be my recommendation to you for your consideration.
Thank you. I'd like to move for a referral then. Deferral to staff to come back with a report. But I do think this is really, it's a bizarre approach for us to deal with the relations with your media. I think there's other avenues, and unfortunately this is the business that we're in. And to try to condition or try to provide that response on a media story, an individual media story, when there's a host of stories. So when there's stories that, go in our favor or is positive, I think we say nothing. But on this type of story, unfortunately, this is one of those things that we get.
I think it's a referral. Usually we refer, yeah. It's a referral.
Fine. It's referred. Thank you.
Councillor Sprung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first section, and I agree that staff should bring back a report. I support the referral. In my view, the first section, I don't know whether it has any value. I can see the second section having some value, especially as we all know, a number of us have brought issues, media issues, for discussion in the past, and I think that I was one of the most active one back in when we were dealing with the lawsuit, and stories were coming out in the media continually every week about what transpired, and I brought those stories here for discussion and for staff reports, and on and on and on, if you recall, and we're to the point where you thought I was really killing an overkill, and you wanted to end that ability for me to bring, these issues. But, we're still able to bring these matters before committee, and we can still discuss them and question the accuracy of the media stories and what may have, generated a story and so on. And I think that opportunity is always there. So I don't know if we really need that first section, but certainly I'll wait for staff's report and come back and see what staff suggests on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, you haven't spoken, so let me speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first I've seen of this motion, but I honestly don't have any problem with it. Councillor Pleshy mentioned we all have to be open and transparent. I think it's just another way of being more open and transparent. And, I'll give an example, not necessarily to this article, but I was portrayed on the LRT debate by a very small, and I call it media, but, very small group that portrayed me and put out comments that were completely contrary to what I said. I didn't say that. And I had to go back and look at my comments on the tape to see that I didn't even say that. I didn't have the ability to go to those people that they had put that comment out to and say, but that's not what I said. Here's what I said. So you can say that we have the ability to put our newsletters out and all that kind of stuff, but by putting it on the city website gives every person in Brampton the opportunity to go on and see a response that a council member made on that thing, so that they get the exact, and if I'm going to put a response out, I'm certainly not going to lie in it, and I wouldn't assume any of us would want to lie in it, because we get caught in our own lies, like Mr. Trump does all the time. So I look at this as something as being, again, open. We're still going to get comments from the media who, they're tough questions sometimes, and we have to try to answer them to our best ability. But I'd like all the people of Brampton, including, especially my constituents, to be able to see what my answers are to it. And even when we put it out in our newsletters, we can't get to all our constituents in our newsletters. So I look at it as being a positive thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Thank you.
The referral, because again, I think this is just a simple matter of openness and transparency. I don't believe that there's any staff resources other than the questions come in and they're posted to the website, and the response is posted to the website. It isn't really a big deal. And I don't know how many times I've heard members of council say, I didn't say that. My quote's been taken out of context. The headlines doesn't reflect what I said, et cetera, et cetera. It's really a simple matter of allowing the public to know what the questions were asked of the mayor, members of council and staff, and their response to it. Simple as that. No editorial, no nothing. Question, answer, that's it. And I can tell you that part of the reason why I'm bringing this in this format is because I have been asking for unbiased factual reporting. And as a result of that, I believe I have become the target of a number of newspaper articles that have really been intended to malign my reputation. I've been on council 30 years. This is the first time I've experienced this, and it's because I keep asking for for good reporting, factual reporting. So if this is a standard policy across the corporation, any questions that come in are posted, all the responses are posted. It takes away the ability for a reporter to target an individual because it'll be common practice. So I don't support the referral, and I would ask council to not support this referral, as there's no hidden agenda. I've put it all out here for you, and I've also put myself on the line on this one as well, because I've been told I don't know how many times you can't fight the media. Well, I don't want to fight the media, but I do want to provide the truth to the constituents that I represent. And that's all I'm asking for. Councillor Dillon.
So my final comment, speaking to the referral, I think I heard opency and transparency mentioned, but everything's already public. Both the newspaper is accessible, and access to Rogers currently is accessible as well. And this is nothing more than the government overstepping its boundaries, telling people they don't know what they're doing, and that the government needs to hold their hand and tell them. They have access to everything. And our residents are smarter than that. Residents know what they're doing, and election comes, and they update themselves. They're busy in their daily lives. But our residents are not stupid. They have the ability to look at both sides of the stories, and they can tell if one's unbalanced. They'll look at the other side as well. From Twitter wars to this is why our reputation has taken such a big hit over the last few years, and it seems like eerily similar to previous councils. Politics is played in the four walls of City Hall. Go outside. Let's see what the residents are saying. Let's not waste taxpayers' money. Let's not waste our time. Let's do something for the city. If we don't like an article, we gotta be a big boy or big girl and suck it up. And like I said, there's different avenues you can use, the different ways and means you can get your point across. Let's not waste time. Let's not waste taxpayer money.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I've got some views on this. As a former owner of a marketing company, I know that reporters have a very difficult job to do. They've got to get the news out. It's often difficult to get quotes from anybody for anything. So they've got a job to do, and I don't begrudge them that at all. One thing I do want to say is, as we're in council here, I mean, we do have to have some modicum of public decency, or whatever you want to call it, manners. Councillor Dillon, I didn't like the thing being called childish, but that's okay. It's not. We shouldn't be calling each other childish and things like that here in council. People expect more of us than that. Well, the presenter of the motion may be able to say that, but again, as in marketing, I think Councillor Gibson did make a good point, and that's that once a certain media, any type of media, social media, Facebook, through sponsored advertisements, anything, once that message gets out to that particular demographic that visits that particular site, getting the message out, or getting our own viewpoint or our own side out to the exact same demographic is almost impossible unless we use the exact same platform. So, and I'll just use The Guardian. Peter's sitting up there. So if The Guardian prints something, there's a certain demographic that reads that paper, religiously or non-religiously. But if you've got an alternative point, in order to reach that exact same demographic, you've got to put it in the same format, in the same medium. That makes things very, very difficult for any of us. On the whole, I don't have any issue with posting on our website questions reporters ask and responses that we give. I don't have any issue with that. It allows the public to see what questions reporters are asking and what full responses councillors are giving, because I don't think it's any secret. Everybody knows that, if we write a response that's 5 or 6 paragraphs, there's only going to be a couple of sentences of that whole paragraph that are going to be used. So I don't see that as anything but transparent. for anybody who wants to read. Now, one thing that I would like to see, if this goes back or if this is accepted, is, and I'll give you an example of this. In the article that we've got here in front of us, it does say, and it quotes Madam Mayor saying she's had 40 meetings, over 40 meetings with various agencies and people. I think that when those meetings are held, we should be reporting back to council on that in the next council meeting under head of council minutes. Because theoretically, I have not been privy, and I don't know if council has been privy to the minutes or the agendas of a lot of the meetings that Madam Mayor has, and that's great. That's Madam Mayor's job. She's supposed to go out and do that. But if, for example, the media called me and said, do you know of any meetings that have been held to push the HSR, I would say no. And then in the article, it says there's been 40 instances. So it sets one of us up against the other to say, well, one says this and one says that. And I don't think that's right. I think if there's a meeting, I think the meeting minutes or the agenda should be very, very briefly discussed at the next council under head of council minutes. And that way we're all in the loop. We all know what's going on. We all have the same information. Because as the reporter asked, Councillor Miles, have you met specifically with your MPPs? Well, if I want to go out and meet with my MPP and I don't know what Madam Mayor has discussed, or even if Madam Mayor has met with that MPP, I may be wasting both our times because she's already discussed it with the mayor, or I may be bringing up things that shouldn't be brought up or that might be controversial to this council. So in an effort to be more transparent to both the council and the public, I think we just need to know more about any of those meetings and what's going on. But as far as the motion, I really don't have an issue with the motion. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, if somebody calls or if somebody writes us wanting an opinion, if I write an opinion back, we simply put it up on a website somewhere. I don't have an issue with that. From a legal standpoint, I don't know if anybody's asked our legal team yet if there's an issue with it. Harry's going, what, me?
Who's texting you? Who's texting you?
Okay, so is there something, Mr. Squires, that you could enlighten us on that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I would think that this would be a matter best discussed in closed session. It would require a legal opinion, and I think that that would be best provided in a report from staff.
So you would suggest we move in a closed session, add something else to our closed session agenda?
I would suggest if the matter is referred, it can be brought back in closed session if legal advice is required.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm sort of the opinion that we should be listening to our legal counsel, so, okay. So that's my concern, and I just thought I would bring that up. So, Madam Mayor, I don't know if that's something that we would have to discuss in closed session, your minutes of meetings, or if those can be brought out under head of council reports, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure what the process is, but if council, my council colleagues and legal feel more comfortable going in camera to give us a legal opinion on this, then, I'm agreeable to that. But here's my issue. We can talk about how the press pick up and either accurately or inaccurately comments that we make around this table. But when three of us get a bunch of questions that clearly have a certain perspective and really do reveal the perspective that the story is going to be written about, the public, that's not transparent to the public. And I think that's why this motion is one that I'm prepared to support, because it puts the media on notice that if you're going to send me a bunch of questions, it's not like standing in a media scrum where a bunch of other reporters and individuals can hear those questions that are being asked of me. You're putting them in writing. Those are not transparent to the public. So I don't know why passing this motion and putting all of the media on notice that when you send me written questions, they are going to go on the website. And so too is my response back. Because in the absence of that, I could respond back and be breaching the code of conduct left, right, and center, and how would anybody know? So I have no problem posting my responses to questions that come in a written form. But written form questions that come in from any media outlet to me and my response are not transparent. And so this addresses that. And so if this is a public motion that says to all the media, regardless of who they are, you send me something, it's going on the website. I don't know why that would be a breach of privacy or any kind of a breach, but I guess we'll have that comment in camera. But that's why when Councillor Gibson talks about transparency, that's what it's doing. Don't send me a written question. And in the case of these, and Councillor Miles read them out, and even as I read them over, it was pretty obvious that the story was going to be constructed in such a way that it was not going to be accurate. He's going to jump all over that. Accurate is accurate from his perspective, but it was certainly not representative of the way we've done business around this table for a good number of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor
Someone who provides multilingual interviews, and specifically in Portuguese, in terms of translation services, what would be encompassed? Am I required to, with the corporation, cover those translation services for all the questions that I get? I get 5 newspapers, I get radio, I have TV, so that's a consideration. Second so that's a consideration of multilingual channels. There's folks here like Councillor Dillon who use Punjabi and use other lines. Second, is this something that's obliged on other council members? So I would request that the Integrity Commissioner weigh in on this as well, in terms of what the Municipal Act says and what type of freedoms I have in terms as a councillor. Third, I would ask that the fact that we're using corporate resources, the fact that we're using our executive staff time to sit around, deal with something that is purely political in terms of your response. You have your prerogative to put everything in writing you want and put on your website or put on your Facebook and every apparatus you use. But we're taking up all this time, corporate time again, to deal with an issue which is really political in nature. So I would ask if we're using a corporate website, so the city website, to deal with our Qs and As, I think staff would have to report what that means in terms of staff time, how do we log it, what does that mean for my assistant, multilingual report back, and then after as a regional councillor, what does that happen when I get regional requests? Everything we do at the region is city impact, city of Brampton impact. So how do we differentiate now? That's another thing. So I'd like to request this even be brought to the region. I'd like to see, this motion be brought to the region appeal, and we're happy to discuss this as well. So I think there's a host of questions that really require that staff go back, look at what the implications are, and then come back with a report. I think that's a proper approach. And then after, just lastly, my council colleague, one of my councillors last week told me that you didn't give commissioners heads up when you bring a motion yet. Someone who's being affected, a council member, and we have a member services committee, and I get a motion walked in that impacts my business and impacts other councillors. I wasn't even giving the little respect to have this being considered and being sent to me in this nature. So I hope the same councillor last week who made that same comment about bringing in a motion and not giving commissioners heads up provides that same comment towards this and gives me the same respect that I received last week. So that's it, and I think we should have a referral. I think this would be, we don't know the implications on it, and I think this is just a waste of time at this point. Thank you.
Oh, it was a good thing that I'm next. Councillor Medeiros, that wasn't directed at you last week. I was just kind of reminding everybody to, hey, when we're involving staff and using staff time, we want the questions that we're bringing forward to council. We want them to be answered in this setting, and providing them with enough time to do that. I know that Al got back to us later on that day, but if that had been prior to that meeting, that's kind of all I was saying. I wasn't picking on you directly. That wasn't my intention, and I'm sorry that you feel like I was. That certainly wasn't. I'm fully supportive of the motion, except for, I won't be supporting the referral, speaking to the referral, but I won't support the motion without going into closed and hearing from the solicitor. So I just wanted to put that out there. I can't until the referral loses, I don't think.
So through you, Madam Chair, just to clarify, the comment of the city solicitor was if this matter was referred back to staff, a report that may come back that may have implications of a closed session nature may merit the report being considered in closed session. I don't think the intent was to go into closed session now to talk about something for which staff may not be prepared to talk about because there would have to be some investigation that would have to occur.
Okay, and that's kind of I took it like that a little bit because I know that the CEO suggested that his recommendation is for it to go back to staff with a report, but I know that our city solicitor is fully capable of providing us with a response. He's a smart guy, and that's why he's got the job sitting in that seat. So. If the referral loses, I'll be asking for us to move in camera and just from whatever Mr. Squires, anything that he can provide would be thankful. We'd be thankful for it. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that it's tough being a reporter. Wherever you work in the media, I think the media has a very tough job. I would agree with Councillor Bowman. I support the freedom of the press. I think the media is a really important part of healthy democracy, and as Councillor Moore talked about, sometimes we disagree, and that's not a bad thing. So I'm happy to support the referral to give staff a chance to comment on the motion. Thank you.
No, okay, I'd seen a button come on. Okay, thank you very much. Chair Bowman?
I just want to clarify, after what the clerk told us, if the motion for referral loses, we go into closed session to hear legal opinion.
No.
Yes.
He needs time to go provide legal.
No, or yes, I think everybody's confused.
Councillor Bowman, I'll move that after if the referral loses.
You'll move that we move into closed session. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor then of a referral? A recorded vote has been. Oh, why don't we'll stand.
All in favor of the motion that is moved by Councillor Medeiros to refer the motion on the screen, moved by Councillor Miles, back to staff for further investigation and analysis and report back to committee, please stand to be counted. In favor of the referral motion is Mayor Jeffrey, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Medeiros, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Sprovieri. All opposed to the motion, please stand to be counted. Showing opposed is Councillor Bowman, Chair Miles, Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Willens, Councillor Moore, and Councillor Gibson. The motion fails 5-6.
So Councillor Paleche? Councillor Paleche?
Madam Chair, through you, I'd like to move into camera to discuss the motion and to get solicitor-client privilege on anything that the solicitor wants to tell us.
So through you, Madam Chair, if committee wishes to move into closed session, I'm presuming the reason for closed session under the Municipal Act is to seek advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege from the city solicitor. Yes.
Okay, all in favor? That carries. Okay, so members of council, do you want to deal with?
Well, so we'll break for lunch.
We'll break for lunch, and then we will deal with both in-camera items that we have.
Yeah, let's deal with the other one first to give the solicitor more time on this one.
Okay, so we're going to have lunch, and we'll go into closed session on the 6th floor, and we will meet there for closed session at 1:30? 1:30 gives you 40 minutes, 20 after. How long do you want for lunch?
Are we working lunch?
Depends on how long.
Do you want a working lunch?
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my lunch.
Okay, 15 15, 20 minutes, and we'll move in.
Madam Chair, if I may, some members of council do have a citizen appointment committee that we need to, that we have scheduled. We have residents that are coming in to be interviewed. If we could have a working lunch, I would be grateful of that, but.
Okay, all in favor of a working lunch then? That carries, so members of council will go upstairs, get your lunch, and we'll move in camera into the boardroom on the 6th floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.